City Council meeting. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming. First off, we got a public forum. No action will be taken on any of the issues raised. A2. God, I'm looking at the old one. Yeah, okay, sorry. We have to approve the additions to the agenda.
I move that we approve the additions to the agenda.
Let me get here, John. Additional bills for approval. Letter dated from High Tech for a change order for the hose tower epoxy. Letter from High Tech for a change order for the garage FRP and hose. Letter from High Tech add water to south mechanical room. Letter from High Tech for fire hall remodel. Pay request from High Tech. Cindy Mugato from the Chamber of Commerce to approve Winterfest, Soup Fest, and fireworks display. And motion to open offices to public due to the change in governor's order and installing open sign in window. And then one from Public Works to discuss truck repairs. So do I have a motion to approve those?
I now approve or make a motion that we approve the changes to the agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion, second. All in favor? Oh, roll call. I guess Charlotte wants to do roll call on all this. Okay. Yeah.
Marcia?
Yes.
Herzog?
Yes.
Nevin?
Yes.
Andrews?
Yes.
Schrock?
yes,
Motion carried.
Okay, next is public forum. No action will be taken on any of the issues raised. If appropriate, the issue will be placed on the agenda for a future council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. Each speaker is given a 3-minute time limit. Does anybody have anything for public forum? Not seeing anything, I'll close public forum. Next is the organizational minutes. This we have to do at the beginning of each year. So first on the, what are we going to do, Char? Are we going to go through all of these? Each one needs a motion. Okay, first one is to appoint an acting mayor. And my motion is to reappoint Marcia Siebert-Vols.
I'll second it.
Motion and second, any discussion? Okay, Char?
Herzog?
Yes.
Nevin?
Yes.
Andrews?
Yes.
Schrupp?
yes,
Siebert Vols?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next is to appoint 2 ex officios to the fire relief. And I think that typically is the mayor and the city administrator. So I'll make that a motion.
I second it.
Okay, Char?
Nevin?
Yes.
Andrews?
Yes.
Schrupp?
yes,
Siebert Vols?
Yes.
Herzog?
Yes.
Next
Motion
is
carries.
to appoint, schedule of the regular council meetings, and I think we should just leave them remain the same. Second Monday at 7 o'clock. I'll make that a motion.
Second.
Andrews?
Yes.
Siebert Vols?
Yes.
Schrupp?
yes,
Herzog?
Yes.
Nevin?
Yes. Motion carries. Next is the newspaper. We have 2 newspapers, the Echo and the Northern Press.
The next one is C4.
This one. No. Yeah. Here. Council dates.
Okay. Commission appointments.
No. This one here.
Oh, the date for the
Meeting dates.
meetings for the
That
commissions.
includes all the commissions,
Yeah.
because there are some dates that fall on holidays and then they have to be changed. So if we could get that done at this meeting, that solves it for later.
Yeah. And these are all adjusted to the new dates.
Correct.
So I make a motion to accept the schedule for all the commission meetings.
I'll second it.
Okay?
Schrupp?
yes,
Siebert Folds,
Yes.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carries.
So where did I get off track? At the newspapers?
Yeah.
Yeah, now, that's now.
Okay. To appoint the newspapers, we have two, the Echo and the Northland Press, and I think we should just have both of them be here, so I'll make that a motion.
I second it.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp,
Yes.
Siebert Folds,
Yes.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next is the appointment of legal services. Civil is Brennan Person, Labor Johnson, Killian, and Sealer. Prosecuting Crow Wing County. Bond Counsel Briggs and Morgan. Bond Advisor David Drown Associates. I motion that we just keep them all the same.
I second it.
Siebert Folds,
Yes.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next is approval of official depositories as Fransden Bank. And I motion that we leave that the same.
And 4M. 4M is also on there?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, 4M Fund, yeah. So that's a motion. Do we have a second? Second?
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp,
Yes.
Siebert Folds.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Number 8 is designate signatories on the city checking and savings account. And that has been the mayor, acting mayor, city administrator, and city clerk, and I motion that we leave that the same.
I'll second that.
Siebert Folds,
Yes.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp.
Yes.
Motion carries.
So next is the commission appointments. So starting with planning and zoning, is that correct? I got,
Yeah.
okay, so starting with planning and zoning, I would like to reappoint Mark Linder and Mark Wessel to the planning and zoning commission. That's a motion.
No, well, you can do them all.
You
in
can do
one.
all these in one
All of them?
motion.
Okay, Park and Library, appoint Don Mossieri and Joel Knipple. Public Works, reappoint Mick Cheetah and appoint as an alternate Tim Berg. EDA, reappoint John Andrews. That's one motion. Keep going.
You can keep going.
What's next? I've got that.
Oh, you're done with this?
I mean, I'm down to the
Page?
committees now.
You're done with this whole page?
No,
Oh,
but we haven't talked about a couple of these other things. Let's leave them separate. Sales tax committee and public safety committee. We don't even know if we have one.
okay.
Personnel committee, we could do. Want to do that with it? Personnel committee to consist of the mayor, acting mayor, and administrator. Okay, that is done. Do I have
That's a
second?
motion?
Yeah, that's a motion.
Second.
Can we have discussion? The people that used to be on Park and Library, are they still on it or are they no longer on it?
Well, there was, I believe.
Joe Albrecht and I think Ann Schrupp have been on it, and
Yeah, they're not on it. I never heard from them. They've never called. So I've reappointed Don Mossieri and Joel Knipple.
all right, because they just had lots of experience with it.
Change is not bad.
Agree.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Are these people going to fill out
Yeah,
applications?
they are. They tried to get in here, it was locked. They'll be in tomorrow. Joel, you're actually here.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if you want to go ahead and do it after, but the process is to fill out an application. The council gets to look at the applications, and then they make a motion.
Well, I guess that's up to you if you don't want to do it.
Well,
They came and the door was locked today, so they just said they'd come back when it's open.
I think
I
we
would
should
sort
just
of
go
like to
ahead.
have us have the actual applications come in and let us look at them. I mean, I do know the people, most of them, but
Okay, that's John's opinion. You guys have an opinion? Mr. Schrupp?
I'm kind of thinking that's the way the recruitment works. So I'm in agreement with John.
Okay, well, I believe Tim Berg came in and put his in, right?
He emailed it to me,
Yeah.
but I didn't make copies for everyone because I didn't get it until after I came back.
Why don't we just leave them all, then we can deal with it the next meeting? And if there's a special meeting between, we can deal with it
Right.
then. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So I'll agree with John and Dave.
Are we
Okay.
taking care of the reappointments, though? Those don't need
The
app.
reappointments, I believe, are good. Or do you want them to fill out an application?
Yeah, they don't fill out application to be reappointed,
They don't.
yeah.
I
So-
mean, there is a place actually on the application to do that, but they don't have to fill out anything other than their name.
What? I never filled out anything.
I know.
when was-
Yeah.
So why don't, on
If
the
you want to
reappointment-
reappoint him, go ahead.
Why don't, on the reappointments, let's do that. So that would
Okay.
be Linder, Wessels, and Chida,
Cheetah, yep.
Officially Andrews.
and Andrews, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those, so there would only be Don and Joel need to fill out applications.
And I have him here.
She's got the applications there. So, works.
Tim Berg, but his is in.
So the motion is changed to reappointments.
And I second that.
And okay. I guess that was a motion I made.
Okay, is that
All right.
motion clear enough to you, Shar?
It is. I'm just writing it all down. All right. Zebert Bowles,
Yes.
Herzog.
Yes.
Nevin.
Yes?
Andrews.
Yes.
Schrupp.
Yes?
Motion carries.
Okay, next is commission. Right, or do we?
Liaisons?
Do we want to talk about those committees, or should we jump to?
Well, you have that on the liaison.
They're
Well,
on
we
their
don't-
own.
We don't even know if we have them committees, though, so.
Well, but just the one, we don't know. The other three, we do.
Okay, well, I've got that, Aaron. Planning and zoning, Aaron Herzog, the liaison. Park and Library, John Andrews. Public Works, Dave Nevin. EDA, Dave Schrupp. And we'll leave the public safety out for right now.
I'll second that.
That's a motion, yep, second.
I'm just writing, sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Nevin.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Schrupp.
Yes?
Zebert Bowles.
Yes.
Herzog.
Yes.
Motion carries.
So could I make a quick comment on the Public Safety Committee? I did look at our ordinances, and it looks like there is a mention that we have an ordinance that recognizes a Public Safety Committee, but it doesn't say what it does or anything. So I'm kind of guessing we should probably, maybe at one time we had one. I don't know.
Long ago.
Yeah, it's been a long time, so we're gonna revisit that. Yeah. So if we want to talk about that now, we can. I don't, it might be a little out of sync.
Well, I think this is where it's come up, so we
Do it
can
now?
talk with it here.
Okay, the Public Safety Committee is, my idea of that is police and fire, obviously. And it's kind of a committee to bring stuff to the council, vehicles, employment, pensions, compensation, whatever, would run through a committee. I realize there's data that you can't discuss, and those things. But I think it'd just be a group that would bring it. So that's why I would like to form that committee.
I don't know if employment could. I think employment's going to be mandated to stay with the other committee, isn't it?
That's the Personnel Committee.
Yes. I think that.
I agree with Aaron. I think it could be everything but that.
Yeah, and I think the committee can sit down and define it.
Yeah, and my idea of the employment is the need for employment more than specifically the employment itself.
Oh, that would be,
Growth, what are you doing, where are they going, Yeah,
that would be appropriate. But at any rate, the committee can discuss that and can put together some stuff and bring it back to council for approval.
And I think the committee would consist of police and fire chiefs, mayor, Mr. Herzig, city administrator, you know. I even thought, like Kevin said, of you, somebody who's in that, you know, in that realm. So whether we want to decide that now,
Well, then you're saying you would open it up to the public for one or two people from the public to be able to.
and the committee could decide that too. It kind of would be nice, I suppose, to have 5 people there, or an odd number of
How
people.
about Public Works? You said police and fire.
Well, this is a public
Works.
safety committee that we're talking about.
Usually when you talk public safety, you're talking police, fire, and ambulance.
Okay,
Those are the three that
Yeah, and ambulance really isn't our deal.
Well, it is, we house them, and it might not be a bad idea to have,
To add it, to have somebody from the ambulance?
I don't know if Kevin Lee would be interested in.
well, they could definitely use it, let's put it that way.
And that's great. I think there should be 5 people. Now, if the administrator's on there, then it's 6, I believe, if we do that. So, you know, then it could be 7 if we want. I don't care.
I don't see any reason why it has to be even or odd because they make a recommendation.
I agree.
But I do think that would be a great idea to have the ambulance on because it would give them a method to communicate right to the city. So, but I would think that maybe we could just have the committee, the early part of the committee come back with a committee makeup and, you know, a goal of, you know, what they're trying to achieve for the next meeting. Since we haven't had anything like that, so.
Okay, so let's just have the motion be to either form the committee or to reinstate the committee. You know, supposedly we have one, but it hasn't been around, so acknowledge that there is that, and
I don't remember what the makeup was of the old committee. I remember that Charlie McCullough, Dave Timms were 2 public citizens on it, and then it was Chuck Miller, John Backdahl, and Tom, were you on it too?
yeah, so, you know, there's 4 or 5 of us to start it out, and we'll see what
I don't want it to be a large committee. I don't think that'd be
yeah.
a good thing, but I think people can sit down and communicate and move it on. Okay?
There's a lot of things that I have no clue what they are. Fire relief is one of them. And I would like to be on the committee to learn a little bit about it. So, and I do know that things come forward and what are we gonna do? So, you know, let it go through committee. So that is a motion, I guess.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a second. Any other discussion on it?
Yes.
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 Okay, so where are we at now?
D, consent calendar.
Well, I mean, do you want to play with the sales tax committee right now too, or no? That is another
Well, I
committee
think there's
that we
I
have.
think there's information later on. Why don't we
Okay.
get it to it there at that point? Okay?
So the liaisons, we've done all that, huh?
Well, we have the sales tax one to finish, but yeah.
Right. So we're on to the consent calendar, correct? Mm-hmm. Has everybody had a chance to look at it?
Yes.
Yes,
I've got one item, and it's line 5 that I'd like to pull out of there and question.
Which one?
Line 5, fire hall remodel cost of
E5.
8.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'd like to pull number 4, the city month end expenditure report. I have a couple questions.
Okay, so other than number 4 and number 5, do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
so moved.
So moved.
Okay, I take it that's a motion and a second.
I'll
by
second.
Rupp, or whatever.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
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 Okay, should we discuss 4 and 5 right now?
Yep.
Well, Marcia, you want to go first?
Sure. Sure. I do have a question on the month-end report. Basically, on page 7, it's not so much the expenditures, the year-to-date expenditures, but can you explain to me the joint facility county expense, why it's only 17? Is that because they didn't do something this year?
There's an offsetting revenue. The way that works is we have a shared facility, 53%, 47%. And some of the expenses are paid by the city and billed back to the county. And some of the expenses are paid by the county and billed back to the city. So if you look at the revenue side, there's an equal revenue for that same amount on the budget. And what we do is we use those as clearing accounts to make sure that we're billing for the county's share of like the cleaning service, for example. And when we get we code all the expenses that we bill to the county there, and then we pull the revenue in on the top end. And after the year's closed, we reconcile that to make sure that we've collected or billed everything that we've spent on both sides.
I'm not understanding why we budgeted 45,000, or did you budget revenue 45,000?
It's the same, yep, it's a wash.
My
And the
other,
reason we budgeted that amount is because we planned on doing other things that got nixed during the year.
My other one is in Park and Rec. You have 23,512 budgeted for Tech 2. What's a Tech 2? And you didn't have an expenditure, we budgeted for it and levied for it. And then down a few, employer paid health, you budgeted 105,470. And,
Could you go back to your first question, like, we can clear that one up?
oh, that's Tech 2, the 23,000. That's on page 7 of your
We
expenditure.
budgeted for a part-time intern type person and never hired them.
Okay, so that money was levied for it, but not used. Okay, then the other one is the employer paid health of 105,470, and it was less than 30,000. And that was levied for, so I'm wondering why we had 105,000 budget in there. This is the 2020 budget.
Sure. And what we did was when we did the original budget, we made the assumption that the staff that were selecting insurance would select family policies at that time. We didn't know until after the budget was done which staff would accept the renewal policies. And the way that we do the parks and library is we actually, when we get to the end of the year and record all of our receivables and payables, we pull out the specific items that are reserved for capital acquisitions, whether it's exercise equipment or books or whatever it is. And we roll that back into the park as a designated amount.
So we have close to $95,000 that we can assign.
Not at this point. We'd have to look at that to get the right amounts, because there's overages in other areas.
This is year end, right? You spent 30,000.
This is unadjusted year end.
Pardon?
This is unadjusted year end. If you look on page 9, you'll see totals on there of a budget of 661,16 versus year-to-date actual of 592,663.50, leaving a difference of 67,452.50.
Okay, so it's not 95 because you were over budget in some other areas. So
Right, and we'd have,
7,000.
possibly, we need to look at the revenues too, because we may have revenues that are under budget also.
Well, I know you had an additional 30,000 that wasn't budgeted for in revenues from the Pell Foundation.
Right, and that was through a donation.
Yes.
Yep.
But that wasn't in the budget. So I'm just questioning that only because I feel like we're going to have to make some designations or assignments for year end.
Yep, and we'll do that
And,
when we close the books. We'll come back with the recommendation to do that.
okay,
Okay?
yeah, that's fine. I'm done.
Okay, my D5 question, Mike, is at the bottom, project change orders. You have it there?
Yes, I do.
Okay, the first one is 6488 for bay number 5 relocate. Second one is hose tower balcony. Then you've got 3, attic draft stops estimate, attic draft stops estimate in parentheses, so that washes, is that what that does?
Correct. And what we did was, once the option to do the draft stops in versus putting a bigger well in, I wanted to have a mechanism to show what we had originally budgeted versus what we actually are planning to spend.
Okay, so then the final one is the actual change order for the attic draft stops of 19,644.
That's correct.
And if I do the math and add 64, 88, 4612, and 19,644, I come up with 30,744. And it appears to me that you've got 36,442 on that bottom line item.
We'll take a look at that, and there could be a math error there that will correct if there is.
Okay, but it doesn't get bigger than that category, right? That's what it is.
Correct. And then we also have 3 change orders coming through tonight that Chip will be talking about.
Yeah, right. But I mean, this
Yeah.
one here, I just picked that out.
Yep,
and
it'll change.
It appears,
There may be a line missing too.
okay.
Are those change orders in on these cost estimates then?
No, they're not. We just got them late Friday.
So let's make another motion to approve those last 2 items with explanation.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we don't want to leave those. I mean, we want to move them on, right? Okay.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp,
Yes,
Siebert Rolls. Herzog.
Yes.
Okay, so now we're at the mayor and council members' report. Update on fire hall. So I don't know, Chip, if you want to add to this, the fire hall is moving along well. I think Chip's going to have his equipment trucks in there in a couple weeks, give or take a few days. And the rest of it, I think at the last building committee meeting, they told us that the middle to the end of March, you guys should be moving in there, complete. So we should be seeing, I think the mechanical stuff is done. They gotta insulate and hang sheetrock in the main admin area, and it's moving along. So if anybody's got a question on it, I'd be glad.
Is the south wall done?
No, the roof is framed, not dried in yet, so therefore the windows are not placed, but they're working on it.
The rafter's in place. So it's a matter of insulation and just wrapping it up.
So their
we'll
primary.
We'll get
they've
a
been-
change order on that,
Well,
next meeting?
we have a $50,000 change order sitting on that, but
we
that's
have
going
an
to come down.
estimate, but we don't have the actual.
No.
I'm talking about the actual.
And we won't until
Till they're
well after
complete.
completion.
Yeah.
Oh, until after
On
completion?
completion of that segment.
Oh, yeah.
But it takes them a while to run it through Sourcewell and to give us an accurate price on it. So if anybody else got a question on the fire hall? Otherwise, we're good, we'll let her go. Next is a letter dated January 8th from High Tech, change order for the hose tower epoxy. And what we want to do is, in their estimate, they didn't have anything sealing the block on the inside of the hose tower. So we've decided that with the moisture in the building, we have to do something. We have this estimate for $7,040 for epoxy. I think in our last meeting, we decided that epoxy was a little over the top. We were going to put this on hold, and they're going to come back with just a sealer, concrete sealer applied to it instead. So this one here, I'd make a recommendation that we don't approve.
Information only.
Yeah, it's just, we sit on it and we wait and see what they come back with. So does that need to be a motion?
I think it does.
Well, if it needs to be a motion, so be it.
I'll make that motion
Table it.
to table it, correct.
I'll second the motion to table High-Tech Construction's request they submitted for hose tower epoxy paint in the amount of $7,040. Yes.
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 Okay, that's for the epoxy. The next one is a letter from January 8th from High Tech for a change order for FRP and a hose bib in the 6th bay, which the 6th bay is what the old police bay used to be. And there just was no hose bib on the print for it. And the FRP is because they're gonna wash the rigs in there, and right now it's just sheet rock inside.
What is FRP
I
abbreviation
don't know, it's
for?
a plastic liner, it's sheets of plastic.
Okay, thank you.
Is to prevent mold in the wall soaking up water. Now, this is going to be basically the same thing. These are all information. There's 3 of them here. These are information. They're not actually to pay bills, Dave.
Well,
We asked them
no,
to
but we
give us
want to
this.
approve them.
Yeah.
It's more than information, we want to approve them to move ahead.
We're not approving payment. We're approving for
No.
them to move forward.
Approving the change order.
Yeah.
Should we go back to the first one then, so we
Yes,
don't hold up
Yes,
the,
David. Yes, David. We should.
okay.
Where do we wash them now? The trucks, where do we wash them now?
They washed them in the old fire hall.
But they washed them out in the Bay Area before.
Right now, you probably got to take them to the car wash, I suppose, huh? But typically, they wash them inside the fire hall.
I guess now that I'm looking at all 3 of these, we need to approve them to do this work,
Yes.
okay? So that's what the first one should have also been. I think we need to,
No, we wanted to table that because we're not agreeing to the epoxy coating. They're going to come back
Correct.
to us with just a
Correct.
concrete sealer.
okay.
That should be 30% of that or something, significantly less. And they're not going to be done with the tower for 2 or 3 weeks, so there's,
Or longer. Okay.
So
But
that was-
But this one here is approved to have the work done.
$3,215 to supply a hose bib for a hose to wash the rigs in the 6th bay at the fire hall and apply the FRP to the
Panels.
walls. Yeah. And I recommend we approve it. I mean, it's something that,
I'll make that motion. I'll make the motion to approve the change
okay,
order
we got a
request.
Motion by Schrupp,
I'll second it, and then there's discussion.
second by Herzog, and let's have the discussion. Come on.
One question I have regarding this is there was water in that garage space before they did demo. And I asked Andy about that, why are we getting charged for it when it was already there? There was water there.
Was there a breakdown of the charges? There wasn't a breakdown. They're
No,
both-
it was there before. And then when they removed it, when they did demo, they just took it out. So,
So would you be comfortable with approving this change order, but going back and pinning them down and
Oh, yeah.
seeing what it is? Because I don't think we want to delay it at all.
no, and it's not much of this bid because
Right.
the water's right there.
It's right there.
It's all they need is a fitting. So,
Okay.
yeah, I wouldn't make a big emphasis on the water because I'm sure it's just a fitting and 2 feet of copper
Yeah.
hose, so.
Yeah, but I would recommend moving it along.
Okay.
So any other discussion? Aaron, didn't you have a question or
I
something?
think Marcia did. I thought Marcia did.
I think that's kind of unrealistic to pay $3,000 for washing the trucks in there, especially now, if he says that there's water in there, then I think High Tech should ante up and put the water in there.
And I think that's
Yeah.
what he's going back to address. But it's
I
$12.75.
think they would. The FRP is the majority of that, Marcia. And if we don't protect the sheetrock now, it's
Am I in the
going to be
wrong one?
mold and junk
Yeah,
and no.
yeah, Marcia, the councilman,
I'm
there's.
sorry, I must be on the wrong one.
It's plastic. It's the protection against the mold is what that
3,000 is.
Yeah,
3,000
I'm sorry.
is.
I
And even
had
if you didn't
that
wash the
mixed
trucks
up.
in there, just the moisture from the trucks and sitting in there over time, it would catch up to us quick, so. You know, you could say that I wish it would have been in there from the beginning, but it wasn't.
I thought we were talking about the garage FRP and the hose bib.
We are, for $3,200.
Okay.
It's in the 6th bay. So the hose bib is very insignificant in that pricing. I mean, I would guess it's $200 or something, but the big thing that we want to approve is the FRP, so they can continue on and line that bay.
Yeah, that, Marcia, that FRP stands for fiberglass reinforced panels. So it's like paneling, but it's impervious to water.
So we've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion on that?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes,
Yes,
Yes. Now, the second one is in the back of the mechanical room on the very south of the building. There's a furnace room, a mechanical room there, and there is no water back in that building. At this time right now, there's no need for water down there. But they, at the last meeting, they said, you know, if you need a humidifier, if you need anything, right now is the time to run a line down there and supply it. So we've got a change order for $1,275 to do it now. We could not approve this. They still could do it later if they need to, because it is a suspended ceiling. Or while they're in there, we could just let them do it. I think we're gonna probably need water there at some point in time.
and it's far more expensive to run it later than it is to do it today while it's open. It's one of those, you're darned if you do and darned if you don't.
So if anybody's got any other questions for that, otherwise we'll wait for a motion on it.
I so move.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion. Any other questions or discussion on it?
One question I have is why is it so expensive to run a water line to
Well,
another part of the building? Just asking.
probably 70, 80 feet away, and it's all copper. It can't be plastic. So it's soldered copper. And if I
Okay,
was a plumber, it'd be $1,550.
gotcha.
So it just is what it is. So we got a motion and a second.
Schrupp,
Yes?
Siebert Vols,
yes,
Herzog,
Yes,
Nevin.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next one is pay request number 5 from High Tech for fire hall remodel in the amount of $316,000. So if I'm reading this right, after we pay the $316, we're gonna have paid them $742 and there's a balance due of $556, is that correct? Is that correct, Blaine? After we pay this
the change orders aren't on there yet.
current payment due, it says $316,180.
That's not correct because this does not reflect the change orders nor the architect's certificate for payment. So the amount left will be higher than what the balance to finish is.
We were told at the last meeting that the change
told that.
orders would go on this one since we approved them.
And we've requested that.
So they're just not here?
The change,
So the amount that will be left is the 556 plus any change orders to pay?
Yes.
yes.
So our security interest is pretty sound here, you know, they're not getting ahead of us, I don't think, paying them.
Yeah. Can I ask a question?
Sure?
If I may, and maybe this is back towards Mike Shar and the people in City Hall. Is the punch list working its way down in a satisfactory manner for that building? I hate to mix the two, but
I don't think there's a punch list on the fire station, is there, Chip?
no, on the City Hall. The building you guys are in with the
This is
crack
on-
and.
This is on the fire hall, what we're talking about.
Right.
No, I know that, but have we paid them in full for the City Hall?
No. I think if we could just revisit the bill that we're looking at, we can clear this one up. What I think you could do is you could approve the amount to pay subject to the bill being updated for change orders and the architect's signature, so we don't have to come back and hold the payment up. I think everyone would be okay with that on this bill.
So subject to what? The architect's signature?
Usually on an application and certification for payment, it's signed by the architect
Okay.
as a certificate for payment, and any change orders that have been approved have been updated, so we know how much is left on the contract.
So the change orders that we've approved up to date be added to this and we have a total tab.
Correct.
Yeah.
You be all right with that, Marcia?
You're saying we should just go ahead and approve it without the change orders being shown on there and without having the architect's sign on it?
I'm saying you can approve the bill subject to those changes and withhold payment until those show up.
Okay, are you going to put the pay estimate in the next month's packet then? The corrected one?
The
Yes.
change orders.
Well, the change order is going to go on this, and the architect's got to sign it.
Correct, before payment, but you can approve the amount they're asking to be paid.
So don't hold them up. We're not going to give them a check until we get the signature and the updated change orders.
And then next month, we would approve the remainder of the cost? Am I understanding that, Mike?
Yep.
Yeah, we don't know what it is yet.
Whatever they
We haven't got a
submit.
bill.
Next month.
Right. But, we haven't been
And they're billing on percent complete, is that right, Mike?
Yeah, they're billing based off their schedule they'd submitted. So if you
Yeah.
look at the schedule that's attached to it, it's listed as AIA document G703 on the continuation sheet. It shows the amount that they've completed for that period, and that matches the amount of the bill that they're requesting. The only discrepancy I can see on this bill is they have not listed the adjusted contract price for the change orders, nor has it been signed by the architect. So if you make those two changes, the payment's still gonna be the same. It's the amount left to complete is what will change.
Right, and Andy did say that he's having trouble with, well, it's not that he's having trouble. The process he has to go through with, who's the third party we're dealing with? Sorry for not knowing.
Gordian,
Yeah, he's got to run it all through their costing, and when he does that, that becomes the final cost for each change order. So he said, I can't do that. So I think, I think it's going to take till the end of March or later until we know exactly what it costs.
Dave, the change orders that we've approved have been run through the Gordian Group, so they are complete. The change orders that we have gotten and approved.
Right. But the ones that I think the ones that I was referring to are the ones that he hasn't finished yet.
Yeah,
yep.
there is a delay.
Yeah.
Well, these
So-
change orders tonight are budget, they're not actual. Is that correct?
No, that's
Yeah.
not. They're actually additions to the project. The FRP in the garage is an addition to the project. The sealing of the concrete on the inside of the hose
What I'm
tower.
saying is, are those budget estimates, or are they actual?
I
They
am-
say budget on here.
I'm kind of assuming that those are kind of like bid price
Ooh,
budget
be careful when
actions.
you assume. Okay.
Well, they're not going to be more than that.
Well, yeah, I realize
It's a
that.
not to exceed, so. If it's less, good,
Okay, I'll make a motion that we pay High Tech the $316,180.14, but we hold the check until we get the corrected, what's the term on there?
Paperwork.
You'd want to get it
Up-to-date
corrected.
Paperwork.
Pay
Application.
estimate application. Then
Okay, that's-
caution them that we want it
Keep
done
going.
right, so they get paid.
Okay, so that's a motion. Do we have a second?
Second,
Second by Andrews. Go ahead, Char.
Schrupp,
Yes?
Zebra Polos,
Yes.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin, Andrews.
yes.
Motion carries.
Yes.
Since we're talking about the change orders and things, can we go through the D5 schedule a little bit
Where is it?
in your packet?
It's the one you pulled earlier out of the consent calendar.
Okay.
So as we're moving along with this project, we have to start ordering some of these items that were pulled out of the original contract from High Tech, which the city is now going to order to complete the project. So at this point, I need to start ordering some of these items so they can be on site when they're needed by High Tech to install and complete the project. One of them, I believe, is the personal lockers that are in the locker room, and it's in, this spreadsheet's been in your packet for the last 3 or 4 months. So that is called personal lockers. Originally, we thought it would be $15,900. We got them down to $13,947 by buying direct.
Chip, can you and I have a little conversation about this before we go too far?
Well, I have it's kind of like the kitchen cabinets.
Yeah. No,
That kind of
I know
stuff.
that. But when we created this list of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and this is way back at the beginning of time, we were trying to keep the budget under $1.4 million.
Yep.
So we pulled about $100,000 out of there. And it refreshed me, but it seems to me at the time, you were gonna see if we could come up with some fire relief money or some donations or something to pay for that.
Yep, so the relief already contributed about $7,000 to the kitchen appliances. The city wrote a check for $3,609 or something, and then the Relief Association paid the balance of that
For the cabinet.
for the appliances that were $10,549. So the city was only obligated to $3,600, I believe.
Okay, and that's on the line item.
Yep, that's already done. Because the other thing is we need to order some training tables and chairs, and I got a quote for that as well. We had $16,000 in the original budget, and I got a quote for $14,579 from the same company that the city purchased for tables and chairs for the city hall. And down at the bottom, I have a fitness committee that pulled together some equipment for our fitness room, and that came into $17,118.99, but the Relief Association, they'd pay for anything above $10,000. So they would pay the $7,118.99, and they're meeting on Wednesday to confirm that. So these are some of the items that,
$20,000 is in there for the temporary housing at the Miller site for the trucks?
correct, so we're covered
what
there
that is?
through the end of this month.
Okay.
So we're going to set up a fitness center?
Yeah, when we built or drew out the plans for all the buildings, we always had a fitness center because the health and fitness for the firefighters is key to a successful and healthy department. And that's one of the things that I talked about from the start of this whole conversation back in 2017, is we need to be able to have the equipment available for health and wellness of our firefighters.
So right now, the taxpayers have paid for a fitness center, and the firemen all get free membership to it. Am I wrong on that?
No, they don't get free membership there. And they can't,
Firefighters get free use of it.
no, we don't.
Oh, then I was
And then
told
we can't go there at 5 in the morning. A lot of my workers start work at 6:30 in the morning, so
You're
they,
talking about at the community center.
yeah,
Yeah, at the community center.
correct.
Oh, I know, that's just what I was told, so I'm glad I asked that question.
Well, we gotta support those guys, so.
So if you want to have
I
this
agree.
conversation
I'm
another
just
time and have
asking.
another meeting, I mean,
I'm sorry, Chip, what'd you say?
if you'd like to, get together and talk about this stuff in another meeting before we bring it to council, we just, we're getting down to that time where we
Right.
need to, yep,
We need to order, we need to get it going.
yep.
It sounds like there's about 4 different items, well, several items, but
Yep.
that are at a point of being critical.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need a motion to move forward with them?
I'd like to get them all ordered right now, but,
Well,
I think
cabinets we
the
need to
cabinets are
have.
ordered.
The personal lockers need to get in so
Yep.
that they can be installed.
Yes, correct. And they're
Appliances should
4
be in.
months out, 3 to 4 months out.
Yeah, oh, wow.
I mean, yeah,
If you're lucky, I'm gonna guess.
correct.
On a good note, I am gonna kind of go out on a limb here and say that we are gonna save at least $100,000 on the
Yeah.
projected extras due to the mold issues that we
I agree.
set for. So that's gonna be,
I feel confident too.
yeah, that'll be over 100 grand. So that's a 30% reduction in that. But, you know, we should talk about it. We gotta move it forward. We definitely don't wanna slow this process down.
Then do we want to tell him to order? That's my question. Do we
Yeah.
want to vote and give him approval to order?
Yeah, but
It makes sense to do it.
be nice to know what we're ordering.
Okay,
I mean, some of this stuff, the equipment, workout equipment or something, we could wait till we see where we come in at the end of the day, or we get a real brave soul that'll come in and give us a big.
so how would you like me to proceed? Get the quotes on a spreadsheet with copies of their estimates and then,
Well, I think, you know, you have to order the cabinets, you've ordered them.
yep,
So we gotta authorize that. The
Yep.
appliances, where are the things that you have to have?
those are done.
Paid for?
Yep.
Where did that money come from?
$3,600 from the city and $6,800 from the relief.
Okay, so that's done.
But you need now the personal lockers,
Yep,
the training room tables, chairs. It says
Correct.
tables and chairs. It's there twice, but it's, you need those,
correct.
okay? Show me on here, what's the next one?
The gear lockers are already ordered, person lockers. Then it would be, after the training room tables and chairs would be the exercise equipment
Okay.
at that point. And then it's gonna be office furniture. We're gonna try to use the stuff that we had before. Hopefully it doesn't fall apart when we put it back together.
Okay, why don't we get you moving on that, the personal lockers and the training tables and chairs?
This one,
Is that going to require a motion? I believe it will.
Yeah, I think we gotta include the cabinets and the appliances.
Well, I thought they were already approved.
They done?
Yeah, they're done. We're just talking about this right now.
I think that's done.
Yeah, so it's the personal lockers and then the tables and chairs from the training. And I make a motion that we approve them and purchase them. And you're gonna have to help me with the cost on the personal lockers. I believe it was $13,947, you said?
Yes.
Oh, I'll never read that. Okay. Well,
I can borrow you my glasses.
yeah, I've got glasses and it's, but I looked up at that small lettering, it wasn't helping. Then the training tables, is that the 14,579 then?
Yes.
Okay. Where does this 7, whatever it is, come in from?
7.
I thought there was a 7,000 in there somewhere.
For the exercise equipment grant or donation?
Maybe that was it, I heard Dave.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that was what the relief would pay to offset the cost of the,
Okay.
that's this one.
So what you need right now is the 13,947 and 14,579, approval to order them, and then get the final paperwork to us.
Okay, how about this?
Okay, you gotta help me. I mean, you gotta blow it up.
Okay, so this is
Treadmill, your equipment.
our physical fitness equipment.
The city's part was 10,000 on this.
How much was ours?
You may as well add that.
Excuse me?
You may as well add that because we've got a donation from the firefighters relief for over 7,000, right?
That'll be approved Wednesday, but it looks like that'll be a positive and it'll be a go.
So our cost is 10,000.
Right, and that's in the listing.
Okay.
Yep.
Then I'll go along with that. I can accept that and move forward with that. So we're actually looking at 27, 28, 38, 38 plus $1,000 total.
Chip, I would make a recommendation that on maybe those Friday morning meetings when we get together or something, we visit this a little bit.
Yep.
So we come in, we're a little more comfortable with it.
Okay,
You know, so I think what you need to do now is what you need to do now. And some of that other stuff that we can just at least digest a little bit.
So order.
Are you good with what you need to do now?
I don't know where we are, sorry.
I don't either.
Appliances, I don't know, where are we? Cabinets?
I don't know.
appliances? And the
Aaron was
10 grand?
good, and Mr. Anders was saying, I don't know if you had a motion, or I don't know where we're at
I
here.
hadn't made a motion, no, I'm saying I'm good with this for discussion purpose.
Okay,
Okay, so I'm clear on that.
So who's gonna make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I think you ought to go ahead and let Chip get going on these things unless you think you really need discussions, Dave, that's gonna slow them up.
No.
I think we should just go for it. You all can chat about the details. So,
I'll second.
I'll
it.
second it.
Okay.
Okay, motion and second.
Can I just clarify what was
Yeah.
approved? The fitness equipment, the personal lockers, and the training room, table and chairs, is that
Correct.
correct?
That is
Those
correct.
3 items, okay, thank you.
you got,
Did you get the dollar figures with them? Or you can get it from Chip? Okay.
and you're saying the fitness has to wait, or can we do that now too?
No, that's on here.
Okay, good.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp,
Yes.
Ziebert Bowles,
Yes,
Herzog,
Yes.
motion carries.
thank you, and like the mayor said, I think that you're gonna save some money with the way it's been going with the
Yeah, but let's,
change order.
in our smaller little group, let's
Yep.
go through these things.
Yep,
Okay. Okay, we're done with that. We have got a resolution accepting donations, and I'm going to read this. Whereas the city of Cross Lake encourages public donation to help defray costs to the general public of providing services and improving the quality of life in Cross Lake. And whereas the city of Cross Lake is generally unauthorized or authorized to accept donations of real and personal property pursuant to Minnesota statute, section 46.5.03, for the benefit of citizens. And whereas said statute 465.03 requires that all gifts and donations of real and personal property be accepted only with the adoption of a resolution approved by 2/3 of the members of the city council. Whereas the following persons or entity have donated real and or personal property as follows. So we've got a donation from Megan Zerke, is that right? Close? For $405 for the library in memory of Doris Stevenson. I read that in memory of Doris Stevenson.
I move we approve it for 400, the receipt of the $405.
405. Okay, we got a motion
I'll second the motion.
and a second. Go ahead, Char.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp,
Yes.
Ziebert Bowles,
Yes,
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin.
Yes. Okay, Cindy, come on up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am not here to ask you for money. I'm not here to give you any money. I'm here to bring you up to date on Winterfest. With the governor's recent relaxed executive order, we can and are planning to host Winterfest February 4th through 6th. Everything planned is in compliance with the executive order, so we're not going to jeopardize any business in town doing anything that is not in compliance. All the details on Winterfest can be found at crosslake.com or on the Crosslake app on your mobile device. The events are planned for the 4th through the 6th, kicking it off on Thursday the 4th with our 3-day lost medallion hunt. Clues will be released for families to find that lost medallion, and when they find it, they win a basket of prizes that have been donated by Crosslake businesses. On the 5th, which is Friday night, we're planning the traditional outdoor fun at the Crosslake Community Center, and we have worked with TJ on that. We'll have the sledding hill open, the ice skating open. We're planning to have snowshoeing around the loop on a part of the cross-country ski trail that will be lighted with little candle lights. And then we're going to have fireworks. So I think that the fireworks application was submitted today? It was, I got it today. So I believe, Yep, yep. Flashing Thunder will be putting on that fireworks show. They do it every year. It's the same drill, out on the baseball field. On Saturday, the 6th, we're planning for radar runs on the lake at Moonlight Bay. The retail shops will be open, offering deals and discounts. We're going to have some kite flying in town. The establishments will be having, festivities inside and outside of their establishments, again, in compliance with COVID capacity rules. Our promotional item this year is going to be a face buff, very similar to the one that we sold during Cross Lake Days. So we're promoting face masking, social distancing, all that kind of stuff. And we are able to have Soup Fest. I did talk to the inspector at the Minnesota Department of Health, and we can safely do Soup Fest. So I do need a motion to approve from you guys to have, in accordance with the Minnesota Department of Health rule, having, with community events, giving away free soup and chilies. I need your approval to have that Soup Fest, and then your approval for the fireworks at the community center.
Cindy, I got one. Is there any, do you need the Public Works guys for anything, or did you ask for anything from them? Other than get the community center ready to go and?
I think TJ probably has been working with Ted on it. The fire is all ready to go, the bonfire, and usually Ted, hauls all the wood in for that. We really don't need anything plowed. I don't know of any barricades that I need. So TJ, is working with Ted on the community center property, and that's all good.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion?
I'll move, we approve the Soup Fest and the fireworks display.
A second.
Okay, motion and second. I don't think there's anything to add to it.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp,
Yes.
Siebert Vols,
Yes,
Herzog.
Yes,
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Okay, I've got a few other items on my mayor's part here. The first was, is we changed the personnel committee.
hold it,
Right.
you've got number 5 left here yet. Open city offices,
Oh,
top one.
That's under city administrator.
yeah. Okay, so we changed the ordinance to change the personnel committee. Is the ordinance in here? Did we do that? Is it complete?
That is Char's mistake. It is not in here, but it is what it is. You guys made the motion to change it, but I did not officially bring that to you. I apologize.
Okay, so what do you have to do to get that?
I just have to put it in Word format and bring it to you. I could do that at your next special meeting that you have.
Okay, I think it's important
Yep.
to get that done.
I missed it. I apologize.
Okay, the next thing is last March and April, we made a motion to put our administrator in charge of making fast-moving decisions. That was when I think it was March or April. That was when the COVID was coming up and we kind of let it go. I'd like to revisit that now. I don't know if that's necessary anymore. So what I put in my notes is I'd like to revoke that motion and just have things back to normal business. So do you all understand that request? Do you remember the motion that we made? Do you remember that, Chip? Eric, do you remember it?
It was there regarding COVID.
Correct. So I just don't think there's any need for that anymore. I'd like to retract that. So I'm going to make that a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Go ahead, Char. Any other questions?
Operationally, what does this mean? Okay,
Nothing. No different than it was before March, April.
okay.
Business as usual.
We open up the doors.
Yeah, well, that we got to do, but that's got nothing to do with that.
Okay.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp,
Yes.
Siebert Vols,
Yes,
Herzog.
Yes.
Okay, then we had a little incident here this week, and I don't know, Char, I'm going to take your F2, and I'm going to visit that. So in F2 and the next one, Shar had it done, I'm going to read this. On Tuesday, January 5th, 2021, High Tech Construction arrived at City Hall with equipment to install a sign. They began working on the corner of 66 and Daggett Bay Road. Staff questioned what sign was being installed and the location, because High Tech's original location of the sign was to be on either side of the driveway to City Hall. That statement is totally incorrect. Totally incorrect. There is a site in here, and they've got it on there, but I brought with me the plans for City Hall, the permit set that was approved by the 22-person building committee group that worked on this facility and the fire hall. And it clearly shows in the corner, and if anybody wants to see it, I'd be more than happy to show it to you. But it's a proposed monument sign on the corner of Daggett Bay Road and 66, as close to the easement as we could get. So here it goes on to say, it was the understanding of staff the location of the sign would be decided when the sign was completed. Now again, that's a staff decision, and I don't know where that came in, because this whole approval of this whole thing was through a building committee of 22 people, through the council, of which the council and the building committee in its entirety put me in charge of these projects, which I have been pleading with High Tech to come here and get those signs in before the ground gets too hard. So they finally get over here to put the signs in, and staff shut them down. So I don't know what I'm even asking for. I don't know what I'm doing here, but it was an extreme overreach. And John Kolstad, Shar, was there, and John Kolstad made the statement that he takes his direction from Mike Linus, and he pointed up to Mike's office. So those, I just want, there are people that worked very hard on that building committee. We all put this forward. They authorized me to be the spokesman for it, and I had to turn around and send the crew, the construction crew from High Tech home on their way. They did not complete the sign. So part of what I'm bringing up here is I want to take a motion from the council here. Where are we going to put the sign? Are we going to put it in the front of the building here where staff would like it? Or are we going to follow every other business up and down 66 and put a sign in a location that people driving by can see it, you advertising your business on that street? The whole thing makes no sense to me at all.
Dave, why don't we back up and why don't we talk about this one item at a time? Let's talk about location with the council. Are you up there, Dave? Shrub?
Yes, I can,
You can
yes.
see? Okay.
So to the far left, you can see the 66, the bigger road. That's Daggett Bay Road that comes in by the city hall. That little black line in the corner there says proposed monument sign. Right there, clear. That's the permitted plan that was approved by the building committee and the council.
Point to it, Eric, if you would, please.
What's that? You want me to lift it up to the?
No, just point where it is.
No, but Eric, I wonder if you should
Believe
put,
it's there?
Right there, yeah.
It says proposed monument sign.
so now there was 22 people who spent 3 months on this project, all donated, dedicated time to doing this.
But let's talk about where does council want it to be?
Well, I think we should put the alternate, where staff wants it to be, just so we can show where the disagreement is.
This is the design that we received in our packet, correct?
This was
So this was an August 6th email.
High Tech, not staff.
But I'm not sure that that was High Tech's recommendation. I think per conversation, the recommendation was to put the sign in the front of the building or something, and something altered there. I do have an email with that verbiage on it.
Well, you've got two alternate sites right there.
Somebody asked for an alternate site for it, but I don't think it was anybody to do with the building committee, and I don't think it was anybody on the council that officially requested anything.
But
I
Dave,
really would like to know
yeah,
where that
yeah,
came from.
but Dave, why don't we discuss, where do we want it?
Well,
Why don't we have Schrupp start it? And Dave, what's your comment to it?
Well, I guess the first question or one concern I have is the installation of this sign going to cost us more money than the contract has in it?
It's not going to cost anything.
So this,
It'll cost, wherever we put it, there'll be a cost associated.
Sign that they
Well-
were going to put up the other day is included in the price, and it's part of their commitment for this building, so.
I understand that, but we're talking about the new sign. The old sign is broken, it's damaged.
right,
Aaron,
Right,
we're
I
going to
get-
put the old sign up now as a temporary thing and
Yeah.
enhance it a little bit with siding, at no charge, Dave.
right. But if we do, the question I have is, let's just say they make a brand new sign and put it on the court, on the spot where the drawing shows it. Was that an extra or is that included in the original contract?
Well, I think if you say they're going to make a brand-new sign, I think that would be an extra, but for them to put the posts in and hang our old sign up, that is included.
Okay, because then I noticed that on City Hall and the police department, they have some really great signs on the front of the building.
Yeah,
Yeah?
So, and I don't know, I wasn't on the building committee. I hope that we don't get, I mean, this is just for a sign, and I hope we all work together on this. I heard some rumor about cutting trees down all over the place. Was there something going on with that?
Shar, do you want to explain that, or would you like me to? There were 3 4-inch oak scrub trees on the shoulder of the road, Dave, that had to come down for
Oh, okay.
visibility.
For the sign, okay. So they're okay with putting the old sign right there?
Yeah,
Fix, yeah.
are they okay with it? Yeah, they were there to do it, yeah.
I don't, if that is what we want, fine, then the more signs better, but I would just say it's not worth wasting a whole lot of time on it, just get it up where you want, where the drawing shows it. It sounds like had that drawing been available the day that you were doing this, you could have, explained what was going on, because it
No,
sounds like there's confusion.
Marcia
But the-
and I were both there, and it was made very clear to us that it takes a council motion to move that forward. So there was no moving it forward.
Yeah,
No, staff dug their heels in and we did not put the sign in. And then I should extend the story a little bit. Then I went fishing that day for an overnight and I came back the next day and I come home and my beautiful patient wife makes a comment to me, "Did you see the guy?" And I said, "Who?" One of the 2 of them, I guess, alleged that I threatened them. And so they had an undercover investigator come to interview me with threats of, what do they call it? I don't know, but I threatened them with harm. And that police report isn't out now. It will come out. We will find out. We were all very high-spirited. I certainly, as you guys see me all the time, I want to keep things moving forward. But under no means did I ever threaten anybody. So, the allegation and as deep as this is going is getting kind of over the top. The reason I'm a little frustrated with it, David, you'll remember this, that the city council and the whole building committee put me in charge of overseeing these projects. I didn't do anything other than what they approved on the site plan that was approved by both the council and the committee. I just want to get the sign in, the ground. People don't know where City Hall is.
well, my 2 cents is if it was on the drawing, which I could barely see it, and they're not gonna charge us to put the old sign there, I'd just say I'm in favor of doing it and just get it done.
Okay, that's what, let's just do this.
I just hope that we don't make this, a sign is not a big issue in all of the events that's going on in our country today. End of my story.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Schrupp to put the sign in the location on the originally proposed permit set of plans.
I'll second Dave's motion.
We have a second by Aaron.
Discussion. Looking at everything I have now, I like the green signs that are already there that said City Hall. I feel they're comfortable. I tend to like the decreased signs in Cross Lake, period, and the story. I think the sign that's being designed is gorgeous. But I'd probably just leave it off and just use the 2 green signs that we have. So that'd be my choice, first choice.
Okay, but just a comment to that.
Sure.
Go and talk to the people who work in the List building, which is right where that green county sign is. They get 5 people a day stopping in there saying, is this City Hall?
Gotcha.
So I don't think, well, I mean, that's your opinion, and
Gotcha.
you're certainly entitled to it. Myself, I would rather have a warm sign that greeted people and attracted them to this facility that we built.
And I'm pushing to keep as many trees as I can for the up north feel. And I just think that
Okay.
I can find the City Hall with that green sign, my opinion.
So Mr. Andrews is saying no sign. Do you have a comment?
I'll say that I think we should go with what the building committee and the council on that site plan and have it on the corner there. And I also want to say there was no threats at that time, when we met there with the signs. There was absolutely no threats. And I'm a little upset too, that I had the Baxter Police Department at my door, and I had no idea why they were there. And I'm sure all the neighbors wondered why they were there. But here and then, I'm in favor of putting that sign on the corner there, where the site plan that was on the building application says it was gonna go.
So fortunately, when Char called me to tell me that they were sending the construction company home and they weren't putting the sign in there, I jumped in my truck and I headed here and I called Marcia, and Marcia and her husband Jerry happened to be available. They jumped in their truck and I got there about a minute before they did, but they were there at the corner throughout the discussion about the signs.
Okay.
So, probably in a closed meeting or something, but we're gonna dig into this a little deeper, because it's a combat constantly with staff and trying to get things done. I've worked very hard on all these buildings and all these committees. And the biggest struggle that I've faced is working internally here, and I'm gonna publicly make that statement because it's the truth. Eric, did you have something to add?
Yeah, if I may. Real quick, I'll explain the situation. Myself and Sergeant Swanson were called to the area because 2 city employees felt that there was a threatening action. That's our job, we come. It involved the mayor, it involved city employees.
And a
put it-
councilwoman, correct?
Well, she wasn't involved other than a witness,
Okay.
and her husband. I slept on it that night, I didn't do anything with it during that day, and I slept on it that night, and I said the right thing to do is to farm this out to another police department. No undercover police officer came, there was a plainclothes detective.
Well, okay, plain
That
clothes
showed up.
in an
Well,
unmarked car, to me, it
And
looks.
an unmarked car, so
Yeah.
somebody showed up at Miss Sievert Voll's house in a car that doesn't look like a squad car,
Yeah.
in plain clothes. I don't think the neighbors were
He-
probably talking about it.
That kind
but-
of,
He had
most
a
of us
badge.
lay people would say that's undercover, but plain
No,
clothes,
all right,
whatever.
I'm just telling you what it is. So, the Baxter Police Department has not gotten back to me regarding anything. I don't think there's any criminal charges that we're looking at. But the fact remains the same, that 2 of our employees did not feel safe at the time. Your word, their word. I mean,
Is it
something's
fair
got
for
to
me to
happen
ask-
where we're a little more respectful to each other all around.
Is it fair for me to ask who made the complaint?
No, I'm not commenting on
But
that.
that
It's
will
not
come
my
out
case.
in the public report when it comes out.
Whatever comes out and whatever we can release as far as
Well, I think it's
data
public
privacy is
information.
concerned, yeah.
Okay.
But we need to be more respectful, and that
You know,
goes
Eric,
both ways.
If we were all very respectful, we wouldn't have many issues at all. You know, respect has got to go in a full circle.
That's what I just said.
Yep, and I totally agree with you. Come on up, Jerry.
Talking about respectful, the cop came there, didn't leave no card. I'm sure you would have left a card. We had no idea what his name was. You referred him, and Marcia had your cell phone number. I called it. And that email you sent out, this was basically like city business, and I called to get the name of the police officer, is what I done. and you sent that email out. That was not appropriate.
An email that I sent out regarding giving my personal cell phone number to others other than the council, I don't think that's an issue.
If I may just
If
interject.
she could have-
If I could interject here quickly, I don't know where this is going, but there's some kind of investigation going that's not done. From what I heard, I was not here, but as the chief tried to explain, it's pretty hard when the complainant and the accused are both in the same city. I mean, he works for all of us in the city hall here. He's in the middle of that. It's pretty
I'm
hard
not
to.
disputing that at all.
It doesn't mean it's a serious complaint or a not serious complaint. He just doesn't want to be involved in any complaint when that's how I would see it. When we have city staff and city council all in the same complaint. So that's where it's at. I mean, it's not meant to.
I'm not real fond with being involved in a complaint of me
No,
threatening somebody.
but point is how severe it is, I have no clue, but that's what the chief did and why. He does not want to get in the middle of an argument between council and staff. And now it's still ongoing, let's let it sit until we get a report. Maybe, I don't know if a report's coming or not, but what we're gonna do today, other than, you aired your concern, I hear it. And I'm not saying there was a threat or not, I wasn't there, I don't have an opinion, but that's why the chief did what he did, I assume.
I'm not questioning that at all, you know, I respect that.
Can I ask a question? Can we see the police report once you get it? Because they said
I
they
won't
sent
get
it
it
to
probably, but we have to follow protocol, so whatever the protocol is, the chief will explain that to us and we'll go from there.
Or we just.
You'll be getting it. I talked to the officer today,
Oh, well, typically I
and they were
don't.
sending me the report, what they could.
I've never seen a police report since I've been city attorney, so.
Well, this, they said was going to be sent to the
All right.
attorney. And I got a couple other issues, talking about respect. A few years ago, we came into the city office, and Mike and Marcia got into a little argument. And Marcia was pointing her finger, and Mike comes right up there. I can point my finger in your face, too. Now, that's not respectful. And then, when Marcia was going to get appointed to the council, there was rumor going around that she confronted Chip outside the building. We were going to our vehicle, and Chip hollered for Marcia. Nothing happened there. It was all nothing. It was all just questions. But then, when we had a planning and zoning, I asked Chip a question, and he confronted me right over here. And I could say I felt threatened by it. It was just a simple question. The staff here does not like to be asked questions. Okay. Same with Ted, when he got to ask the question, who was in charge of maintenance? Then he blew up. That's not respectful.
So the moral of that story is respect has got to go in
Both
full
ways.
circle. Yeah,
Nope.
but let's not dig into this too much. This will probably get carried on at a later date. But I want to be real clear with our motion here on the location of the sign, because I want to let High Tech know tomorrow that they can continue doing what they started to do Tuesday with no obstruction of any kind at all. Is there a permit issue with that, John, that we need to discuss at the meeting tonight?
Needs to be added to the permit.
But this was a permitted plan here, and it's on it, so that means it's not, well, it's on it, it's right there, proposed.
plan, but it's not on the permit.
Just pick up a permit. It's free.
I'll add it to the permit if you guys vote, and that's where you want to put it.
Okay,
That's what I told
whatever we do, just so there isn't another stop of work, that's what I want to happen.
Okay.
So let's make a motion.
There's a motion and a second.
Motion out there, Shark, could you read the motion back so we're clear on it?
I think Dave made the motion, so if he would restate the motion, then she
Dave
could
Schrupp.
get it.
Make a motion to add the existing sign as described by the mayor, the refurbishment of the existing sign to the location showing on the drawing. And what's the drawing number?
C4, well, no, is it? Yeah.
Lower right corner?
Well, if it's
C4.00.
What date is it?
July of 2019, there isn't a date
All right.
on it.
July.
And there-
yeah.
Assuming there's no extra billing for this work.
It's stamped right on the permit that it's the permit
Site
plan,
plan.
Okay, but,
right here, permit set.
yeah, but we'll pull another one.
Okay,
Let's
so I'm
move
sorry,
on.
I interrupted you, go ahead, finish. So just put this.
My last comment was, I'm assuming we're not going to get billed on top of the bid price for this work, in that it was included into the original bid to do this work.
Yep, it is included. And Andy Picard was on there, but I don't see him anymore. Andy, you're not out there, are you? He was.
I don't
on there
see him.
earlier.
That's my motion.
Okay, so do we have a second on that motion?
I did.
Okay. Second by Herzog. Go ahead, Char.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrock,
Yes.
Siebert Bowles,
Yes,
Herzog.
Yes.
So I'm gonna call them. They told me they could get right back on it. No interruption. Done deal. Sign's okay, permit's okay, everything's good? Okay.
Interview engineers.
Yes,
Which way is the sign gonna face?
it's gonna face south at this point. I think we'll look at that in the future and we'll get a two-sided sign, but at this point right now, we only have one sign and that's what we'll do.
What happened to the two-sided sign?
The other one is damaged. So we'll have to work on that, but. Last thing I want to say is let's open the city hall up. Let's let people know that we're here. We're eager for them to come in. I'll turn it over to you, Mike.
Yeah. And I move that we open up City Hall.
Mike will cover that.
Okay, so we're back on track now.
Yep.
All right, thank you. So we're at item F1, City Administrator's Report. The first item is a memo from the clerk talking about scheduling interviews with the engineers. If you remember back a little while ago, we requested to take requests for proposals for engineering services. Ted Strand, myself, John Andrews, and the mayor reviewed the proposals that were and chose 4 companies we'd like the council to consider. Those companies are Widseth, Bolton and Menk, Moore Engineering, and WSB. We'd suggest the council hold a special meeting the week of January 19th to meet with each company. You'll need to let us know if that's acceptable to you and how long you would like to visit with each firm. If you'd like a presentation from them or just a question and answer meeting, and we'll go ahead and direct the clerk to schedule those meetings.
I would throw in there that I'd like a question and answer for a half hour for each one. My thought.
I can second that.
I would like them to be a closed meeting, so other engineers aren't listening in.
Can we do that?
I don't think you can do that.
I'm thinking out loud right now. I think that's sort of akin to purchase, I'm kind of using an analogy here, but if you are reviewing competing purchase agreements, that's a close item because the competitors, people shouldn't be able to see what the other bids are. If that's the logic I'm hearing as to why you want it closed,
Yeah.
I see some logic to that. If the meeting's going to involve it's not in part of the public information already, how they're going to price or bid, or if there's going to be private competitive data there. I don't know if that is what's going to be in an interview or not, but,
I think pricing issues will be part of the interview. Cost issues.
well, that would be your logic to have it closed if you want to go close.
That's my logic to it, okay? I think they should be. To protect the engineers, each engineering company from each other.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Marcia, have an opinion?
I agree.
Okay, so January 19th, you said? Yes. Is that date good with everybody?
It's that week,
Week of.
week of.
Okay. Well, whatever, just tell me when, I'll be there.
I'm not on it, so it's the
is
people
this-
that are on
No,
it.
we're all on
should-
it, this is the council.
Oh, all of us are?
Full
Oh,
council. This
I
is a
wasn't aware of
council interview.
So is this a Zoom with them, or are
Well,
they
it-
gonna be present?
I think it'll be Zoom. I think, yeah, we're not gonna have them drive up here for, some of them gotta drive for a few hours. I mean, isn't that what your impression was, Mike? Zoom meeting?
Yes, either or, whatever works for them.
Okay.
So the week of the 19th, John, are you available?
Yes,
Dave?
Yes,
So just set a time, I guess, and let us know.
Well, you should make a motion. Pick a date right now and a time and
Okay.
papers will have it.
The actual date and time, I agree.
Okay, the week of the 19th, what is the, boy, we could do it on inauguration day, huh? That'd be fun. Well, I'll say the 19th at 10 in the morning. It's a Tuesday. I'll throw that out. Done by noon.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll make that a motion, Char. I make a motion, we have it on January 19th, 10 a.m., 4 half-hour Zoom meetings with interviewing the engineers.
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a second. Go ahead, Char.
Siebert Vols,
Yes.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin,
Yep.
Andrews,
yes.
Schrupp.
yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, and we'll do that here in the chambers? Okay, next, Mike?
All right, I think we're on to item 3F3. This is the approval of the ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the City Code related to vacation of streets and approval of publication of ordinance summary in the official newspaper. There's actually two items here. One is, there's a recommendation from the Park and Rec and Library Commission. There's a recommendation from Public Works. And what this is basically doing is changing the ordinance to match state statute.
Right, and as long as TJ is here as a member of the Park and Rec group, can I ask him, TJ, did your group have all the information when they made the motion to deny? Did they have the old ordinance verbiage and everything was complete?
Correct, yes.
They did?
They did.
They still chose to deny it?
They would have liked to seen more in-depth verbiage instead of just what it was written at.
Okay, and the counter to that is the Public Works Committee unanimously voted to approve it. Yeah. Mark, Mr. Wessel, do you want to come up? It looks like it. Now's your time.
Take the mask off while I'm at the
Yeah,
mic.
please.
Mark Wessels, 13336 East Shore Road, Cross Lake. I was at the Park and Rec meeting. I was also at 2 years worth of meetings on this issue back in the 90s and all the different ways what to handle these right-of-ways are. And it's been city policy for about 23 years now that we don't vacate road right-of-ways that end at the lake. I understand there might be an issue with the legality of not allowing somebody to apply for a road variance, or vacation, I'm sorry, a road vacation, but that doesn't mean we couldn't simply just change that. My understanding at the committee and at the Park and Rec Committee is what everybody thought is the way the proposed verbiage was going to go, it was gonna be a line of people around the building. Everybody next door to one of those 66 road right-of-ways was gonna be signing up to get theirs vacated. That doesn't mean the city necessarily would do it. There's a lot of reasons for not doing, a lot of very good reasons to not allow. And I understand there's one property owner in town that's had a problem next to a road right-of-way. It's a problem that the city did not create. It's not our obligation to fix it for them, but that doesn't mean we can't help them out. That was the conversation we had. But what we don't want to do is open up Pandora's box and all of a sudden everybody that lives next to one of those right-of-ways is standing in line, can we get ours vacated? Can we get ours vacated? Me too, me too. And so that was the thing. The way the wording was, we kind of like to leave the reasons why we don't vacate it in there. never had, in 23 years, we haven't had a problem with it, but if it doesn't comply with state statute, which I understand, I haven't read personally, but about that issue, if there's an issue with that, if we could reword it so that it does, but then still tell people, it's been public policy here for 23 years, we're not vacating these roads, we're leaving them as green space, and that is the city's intention. If you want to apply to vacate a road, you may make the application, but just so you know, we haven't done it in 23 years. That would be my opinion on it. There's a lot of good reasons for leaving that stuff green space. Once you get rid of it, you'll never get it back. And having a lot of green space on our lakes is something that's needed versus vacating all this. I've heard the argument that, well, it'll go on the tax rolls. Well, it's gonna be a separate property tax ID on an unbuildable piece of land. You're gonna get $100 for it, for the taxes. It's not gonna help the city out. Versus the value of that land, some of those vacated, or some of those road right-of-ways are on land that's worth $5,000 a foot. So to give that to somebody, is, I mean, you're never gonna get that back in tax revenue. Or it'll be 50 to 100 years before you get that back in tax revenue.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, actually, let me comment to it too, but yeah, then you guys can all listen to it. My idea about this vacation is it's going to allow some people to do some extra things to their small lots, their properties. It is totally under the city's control of whether they can vacate it or not. If it becomes a lineup all the way around 66, we can simply put a moratorium. We're not going to do any more vacations. We can stop it in the snap of a finger if it becomes a problem. But I think there are some certain things. When this particular case came up, I questioned. I was looking for ways that we could help the homeowner out with his use that he'd been using for years. And I was told that because we have an ordinance in hand, we cannot help him out. We can't do it. And if he continues to use the property, we're going to charge him $75 a day. To me, that is extremely unreasonable. I think by giving this body the right to make a decision on whether it's a, you know, if you should vacate it for the interest of the property owner involved, if the public doesn't have a use for it, never has had a use for it, I think it's a good tool for us to have. So Tom, you want to add something? And Mark, I don't like to disagree with you, but I have to.
I'm just talking as a member of the Public Works Commission. Just a little history. 2 months ago, it came to the commission, and a motion was made to allow the person a special use agreement where he could have one dock, one boat, and one boat lift. That died for lack of a second. The commission went on to deny it. Then at our last meeting last week, it came up again, and it's because the ordinance is being changed. So last week, when the commission dealt with it, they made a motion to support the ordinance amendment with the understanding that both Public Works and the Park Commission, as part of the ordinance, will have a chance to comment on any application before it comes to the council. And we were told at that meeting that what we were voting on was to support the ordinance amendment because it was illegal to say you can't vacate it. We had to change the ordinance so that they can make an application, and it's ultimately going to be up to the council. But the commission was told that they're going to have to reapply once the ordinance is changed, and then it'll go back to Park and Rec for their recommendation and the Public Works Commission for their recommendation, and then it comes back to the council.
And it does that if we approve
If
this
you
ordinance
approve,
change?
if you approve this ordinance amendment, that's the way it
Yeah, it
should
still
work
has
in
to
the
go through
future.
the channels.
They can make an application for it, but both Park and Rec and the Public Works Commission get to comment before it comes to the council.
Oh, yeah, that, having commissions comment is always a good idea. That's not, I just was trying to make the argument I have several times. it's like saying we don't do variances in Cross Lake. I mean, that's crazy. You can't deny someone the right to ask. That doesn't mean, you have the discretion to say no.
Right.
It's just you can't, it's state statute. They can ask to vacate. That's all I'm trying to make, but if you want to have 3 commissions look at it before it goes to council, or have a high application fee, or require a survey, there's things you can do to make it more onerous, or, that's not the goal of it, but if you want lots of due diligence, because there is a longstanding policy of not liking these in general, that's fine. It's just, you gotta give a guy a chance to make their argument.
Can you require them to make like a $10,000 donation to Park and Rec?
Well, no. As people have asked many times, and it might not seem fair, the state statute, which against overrides city law here, you can't make them pay for the vacation. Now, you can get reimbursed for any actual costs, which is we have a pretty high application fee now. It's not cheap to do a survey, and it's like a $500 application fee, but those have to be related to the cost for city staff to review it, not to make money.
And we can require them to permanently attach it to their original piece of property, right? So it's not a separate tax, or will that always be a separate 10-foot?
Yeah, no, you're right. It has to be, if it's not a buildable lot, which I don't think any of them would be, it has to be adjoined to the adjacent parcel, yeah.
But it has to be joined, so it becomes part of the tax of the original place.
Well, we don't know whose, because it depends on how, every one's different in terms, sometimes there could be 6 owners.
Right.
Weird shapes.
But however that is, whoever gets a gain from it, it would be attached to their property.
True.
Okay, you got
It
counsel?
it would help me to know what are the wordings changes that I need to have so that it will be a legal statute. Taking the word no out of it, does it? Or does the word, I mean, is that the main issue, taking out the word no?
Well, there's probably more than one way to change the ordinance. I've heard some comments here, and I don't know if I have a huge opinion. I'm strongly opposed to the idea that our code is against state law.
I agree with that.
So Mr. Costa had talked to me, and I just said, why don't you just, instead of trying to make up language, we have a state statute that says what happens. Let's recite the state statute. Statutes change from time to time, and that way our code is consistent with state law.
I think
you can have, you could codify different longstanding policies, but another point I know Mark spent a lot of time on that with other commission members, but councils and commissions change, and that was another point I was trying to make. That's why we have votes or elections. You know, this council might not think like the council of 1992, and so it doesn't make sense to tie the hands of this council. You're your own council.
what Public Works wanted, I think, was rather than just say we have to comply with the 2 Minnesota statutes, was to actually put some of the words that were in the Minnesota statutes in this so that people looking at it would see exactly what was going to happen.
I understand. John asked that question too, and again, back to since state laws change, my thought was just reference the state statute. It's public record.
Okay.
And that way, if the language does change, we're consistent, but that's, I guess, up to the council in the end.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment on this? And I have to thank Brad for giving me some information on this, but as I read the changes to the ordinance here, on the specific request for vacation that inspired this change, our right-of-way no longer touches the lake. And there's land that sticks out on the edges of 3 property owners. And Brad reminded me that the land that's out there that has been called fill land, we don't know who owns that, and that's not up to us to decide who gets that. We're trying to decide if we want to just vacate what's left of our property or our right-of-way. Now, the concern I have is that you say that our right-of-way must abut to a public water, and it doesn't anymore because there's fill in front of it. So are we needing a further change, or don't we need to do this for the requests that we're trying to resolve?
I think I understand what you're asking. Before any ordinance change, our ordinance already allows vacations of normal right-of-way. It just has a prohibition if it goes to a public water. To your point, maybe this one does or maybe it doesn't, but either way, my legal argument won't change. I mean, the ordinance change is generic. You're trying to apply it to this case, which is fine, but the ordinance should just say Right now, it prohibits vacations if it abuts a public water. I believe that's illegal. So we should change the ordinance. Applying it to the case that Mr. McCormick brought, you could argue maybe it doesn't apply anyway. Where the water's edge is often debatable. But I don't think that the ordinance would, the way John fixed it, would work in any case with the application that McCormick brought in front of us.
All right, okay.
Because we already allow it, if it doesn't abut a public water, the old ordinance allows him to vacate. With the change, now he can bring the application whether it abuts or not, and then the council can decide based on the facts and neighborhood testimony whether to grant it or not grant it. You can deny it, but that's not my.
I think every one of them will be looked at very carefully, you know.
Right, and it's not up to us to decide who gets what that's not owned by anybody.
Right. So I didn't maybe answer that part of your question. So whether it's next to a public water or not, it doesn't really matter. Sometimes it's obvious who gets the land, but it's not, the city can't order that. There's state laws that apply and tell you if it's vacated, who owns it, but the council can't change it back to its state law. We're not as powerful as the state. So the law is the law. If you vacate it, the law tells us who gets it, but that's not part of the discretion of the council to say who gets it or if we can charge them for it. Those aren't things we have the power to do.
So follow state law.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brad.
I just want to let you know too that we didn't change anything else in chapter 42 of the ordinance. It still has the requirement for it to go to the Public Works Commission and the Parks Commission for recommendations to bring to the city council. Ultimately, you guys make the decision. Dave, you had asked that in the Public Works Commission meeting, could we sell those pieces of property? And the reason that we cannot sell them is because the city doesn't own them. It's not like we have fee title to it, like this piece of property that this building is sitting on. We could sell this building and sell this piece of property. The other ones are held in trust. So that's the reasoning behind that. It's still going to have to go through the whole process. So ultimately, you guys get to make that decision regardless of recommendations. But it's not going to change anything else. It's going to go to Public Works and it's going to go to Parks for them to give their opinion on it.
Yep. Okay. Kevin?
Kevin McCormick, Land Design Solutions, 11821 Lake Trail. I just wanted to throw a couple of things out here too. You know, as we talk about lining up the block with these, we're setting the bar pretty high with the application that we brought to you. It's, as you see, it's got some substantial difficulties here, and it's time for this to go away. The other thing, most of these roads, they're not 66 foot. They're 10s and 20s. A lot of them run between other people's properties. So I think as you move forward with this, you are going to have some of these to deal with, but it's a good thing to get rid of them. It really is. And when you look at the state statute, it actually says these roads that are serving no practical purpose to the city shall be vacated. So as we move forward with this, again, it's not a land grab or anything like that for these three people, my neighbors, but it also gets rid of it, and these parcels will be attached to their existing legal descriptions. So they will be as one. They're consolidated, so they do get on the tax forms. Other ones that you vacate, I don't think you can without consolidating them. You can refer to John for that, but you can't create the nonconformity. So I think there's a lot of win-wins here to get this thing done.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you very much.
Okay, council. Is there anybody else that wants to make a comment to it? Time for a motion.
I move that we make this change to the ordinance so that it's consistent with Minnesota State Statutes 412.851 and 440.13 as in the packet tonight.
Thank you, John.
I'll second.
Second by Herzig. Any other discussion on it?
Can I just ask, TJ, the only thing that the Parks and Recreation wanted was that they wanted statute spelled out for people? Is that what you're saying, that was their
More of a
reason for denial?
More of a clarification on what steps the applicant must take from the verbiage outside of the state statute.
Oh, but I think the city staff could have that statute available for them. I agree with Brad that you should reference the state law, and we don't have to come back and visit it again when state law changes.
Well, and as John was trying to say, the procedure of how you apply, some of that is in our city ordinance already, and we didn't change any of that. It just said, we just changed the sections that say you can't do it when it abuts a water. So the procedure and petition, who can petition and how, and that whole part of the ordinance has not changed at all. And what commissions it has to go to, it's all still there.
And the Parks Commission was in agreement that it is fair and we should listen to the state statute, that they must be heard and come to the commission.
Okay.
Does your motion include publishing the summary in the official newspaper?
Yes.
Okay. Nevin.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Schrupp.
Yes.
Siebert Folds.
Yes.
Herzog.
Yep.
Motion carries.
Okay, sales tax, Mike?
All right, thank you. Just to reset, we're on item F4, and there's a couple things we'll talk about. One is the committee from earlier you had mentioned, Mr. Mayor, and then the resolution you have in front of you. This is the resolution we passed about a year ago, the council did, authorizing us to go identify the projects and ask for permission to implement a local option sales tax. The reason I'm giving you this resolution is it's fairly quick to do a reboot of what we already have in this resolution. We can update the dates. The costs are really close. The change would be on project number 1. You know, before we were looking at an on-site biosolids treatment for about $2 million. And if I could have Ted come up here and speak a little bit about that too. There's been a lot of discussion going through the end of the year into December on do we need to spend $2 million on biosolids. I guess the answer is the biosolids would be about half that, and then the remainder of that $2 million would be lift station upgrades. And go ahead, Ted.
Lift station upgrades, the clarifier upgrades, all of those things all be rolled into it. Mike asked me to identify any potential costs that could be attached to sales tax that we could get back, so that's what we did, is we identified with Bolton and Mink and came up with these figures, so.
Wasn't sewer an unfavorable thing for the sales tax to be applied to? Is there any truth to that?
There have been comments on that. If you saw the latest report, or the came out on the 4th, not the latest one, there's one today, but on the 4th, where the commissioner or the tax chair was not in favor of these types of projects, but that doesn't mean the committee might not be. The other thing we have here is there's been, I spoke with others too, and one of the issues is coming up is, should we be looking at using sales tax to rebuild the plant itself? And what would that cost be? And so what I got out of those discussions with different council members was, there's a couple issues here. One is, are we ready to make the decision, and are we okay with these projects going forward on that? We would need to get this filed with these projects by the end of this month, identified, and what is the regional significance. I think we can meet that with these projects. The danger in doing that is the jury is out right now on whether or not we can have this on the ballot this year, because we don't have a general election. So I've asked the league to give us an opinion on what is a general election, and could we do this in an off-election year cycle. They're not giving me a clear answer on it. And so you could potentially we could get this to the legislature, and they could say, well, that's great. Now you've got up to 2 years to have your referendum at a general election, which would be a regularly scheduled election for offices that you would normally do on that. 2021 is not that year. The other thing you could do is you could take a step back and say, you know, I want to take another look at sales tax. I want to do a better job of identifying these projects to make sure this is what we really want to do. Because you don't want to put yourself in a position to go ahead and say, I want to do this as fast as possible, and then change your mind and hope you can change this.
Do we have to be project-specific upfront on the application for the sales tax? Do we have to list the sewer plant, or do we have to list?
We have to
roads?
list the projects, the amount of tax to be collected, and over the timeframe to do that.
When you apply, you have to.
When we apply, we have to list all of that. And remember, our sales tax study will be, when we have the general election on this in 2022, our sales tax report will be over 3 years old. So we could go back and get an updated report this year and do this a year from now and be in the same position.
It's not till 2022. Is it important to put it in right now? I mean, wouldn't it be better just to kind of work on it, but not do the paperwork?
Well, that's his question.
That's my question.
I mean, as long as there's no jeopardy in losing out on anything, I would say let's wait and see what we got to deal with.
No, can I talk a little bit? I think it's important, if we need an election or not, the first thing that has to happen is we have to get approval from the state. If they don't approve it, you don't have any issues with elections because there won't be any need to put it on the ballot. The first thing we got to do is get a favorable decision that we can do it. And I think the money that we're talking about here is huge to keep the increases in taxes down for everybody in Cross Lake. So I think, we got interrupted this past year because of COVID. I think we go back at it with the same plan, because I think it's a solid plan that the committee put together, and see if we can get approval on it.
But that's not until November of 2022, right?
Right, we don't have.
Conservative answer is 22.
Yep, that's the conservative answer. Now, we're still waiting for Gary Carlson and the league and their attorneys to get back to us to say, if this is approved in this next session, could we do this fall? We don't know the answer to that yet because we don't have a general election here. It'd be a referendum. This would be a special election, which is different than a general election. The other thing is we took out any election out of our budget, so this would be if we were able to do it this fall, which I don't think we can, we would need to allocate funds to have that election. But we've got up to 2 years after approval to do it. So we'd still be on target for the general election in 22. We would just have longer to prepare for it. So the question is, what does the council want to do? If we leave it substantially like this, we could tweak it just a little bit to cover Ted's verbiage on clarifiers and lift station rebuilds. That total about 2 million. I think it was $1,950,000 in total. So we'd leave it at that up to 2 million. Leave the other two projects just like they are and see if it gets through the legislature. You'd still have the election in 2022.
I would say let's have the paperwork ready to go, and when the deadline comes that we have to have it in, do that.
Okay.
But I don't know if we should do it 3 months, 5 months earlier.
Well, we have to have it in by the 31st. Now, the
End
other
of
this month.
Do you have the cost estimates for the clarifier?
Bolton and Mink said they're almost ready with them. I have not received them yet.
This is the new type of clarifier.
Yes, I have not received it yet. I anticipated I was going to get it last week, but I haven't received it yet.
But can we wait till 2022 in order to do that? Can we go ahead with the clarifier if you put it in your sales tax? You've already done it.
The clarifier, we just identified all the projects, the potential projects. The clarifier is a project that needs to be get done sooner than later. And I'm anticipating that work is going to come in quite a bit cheaper than the original estimates. I have not received them yet, so hopefully we can do it with the budget we have.
The other option you could do here too is you could take project one out of the proposal and just go with 2 projects. You could do that too.
I think you should move
Well,
it forward, however.
What was the watering tower, or whatever, the biosolids tower how much was that one?
That was $1 million in
$1
estimate.
million?
Yes.
You could leave that in there and then, I guess you're not saying clarifier in here, are you?
There's another proposal there, clarifier in lift stations, the other part of it, so.
Ted, I think what Marcia was asking is, you've made some repairs to the clarifiers. You haven't changed the design, to what you want to do. Can you get by a year and a half without doing the major change?
Probably not. You're gonna have something that's gonna fall in the tank. Either that outer baffle rim or something is gonna let go.
Right, so the only time you can make those changes is during the slow period in the winter months like now.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's just make sure we don't put clarifier in here and specify clarifier then. If you put in biosolids,
Okay.
maybe by then it'll cost you 2 million.
Again, or you could leave it just like it is, and we could update the dates and the timeframe and resubmit it. It's really up to what you want to do.
I like your last option, Mike. That makes sense.
Tom asked me at what point do we need the next clarifier? And the engineers have determined that we have, with the growth that they projected for going up to Moonlight and possibly East Shore and this little piece down here, we have enough capacity with the plant now. So we're looking 5, 6, 10 years from now before I anticipate all this growth to be filled in before we would need to go to the clarifier and the other train of treatment.
Where you have to expand capacity.
And expand capacity, yes.
And that's roughly how much, Ted?
Oh, God, don't even go there. Just move the thing forward. 10 years from now? What is it?
I don't think it's going to be 10 years. I
Well,
think
it
it's
all
gonna
depends on your
consider-
growth. And even the biosolids, it depends on your growth. See, part of how this all is taking place is the more growth you have, the more biosolids you produce. Well, I have to have the ability to treat that biosolids. So that's what's driving, if you just say, no, we're not gonna grow, we're fine with where we're at. That's where we're at.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2002, supporting the,
Excuse me, we've already adopted that resolution. This was for your information and to use as a tool to determine how we wanted to move forward.
well, so this one's in place.
This one's already in place, and it would need to be redone. If you want to change it, like we were talking about, we could change project 1 to include those things Ted talked about and bring it back to you for approval. Or you could leave it just like it is, change the dates and pass it along.
Just leave it like
So
it
do
is.
you want the motion to say,
I would like the motion to direct staff, what you would like us to do with this, based on what we've talked about.
I would make a motion to leave it just like it is because we haven't had any changes to what our plan is. And have you get the group together and go back to the state and do the presentation again.
I'll second it.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp,
Yes.
Siebert Folds,
yes,
Yes.
Herzog, Nevin.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so along those same lines, earlier in our discussion tonight, we talked about committees. Mr. Mayor, you had talked about the sales tax committee.
Yep.
We can pull that committee, as long as there's no changes with this, we can pull that committee back together pretty quickly. 2 of the members are no longer available to be on that, but I think Cindy Mugato was on that committee, Dave Schrupp, John Andrews, and myself. And Aaron?
Well, it was me,
Yeah.
not John.
I'm sorry, Aaron was on that. Aaron and Dave. So we can get the group back together to discuss this and bring it back, but I think you've already given us direction to go forward on that. So I've got what I need to push this to the state, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
I still think there's value in having the committee together, though.
Then bring it together.
Yep, all right, will do. All right, the last item on here under me is motion to open offices to the public due to changes to the governor's orders installing a open sign in the window. So we'd like to go ahead and reopen, following the
Please do.
protocols, of course.
Yes.
And we gotta light up sign? Put in
Neon
the window?
flashing
Neon,
sign?
not flashing, just
Not
neon.
flashing. Lucy across the street would like that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I move we open up City Hall for walk-in, normal traffic operation.
I second it.
Okay, is that at 50% capacity or is there a restriction to it?
I don't know how you would put a
Governor's rule is
restriction on that.
50%.
Yeah.
If we get to that capacity, I will be surprised.
Okay, but so the capacity of this meeting.
Oh, the
next
meetings.
could
I think
be
we're
more
still
than
at 50%.
50%. This is a 100-person capacity room, so we can have 50 people in here? Right?
Yeah, we're nowhere near that tonight.
Well, couples could stay close and,
Oh, we're just open for
I don't know,
business.
whatever, but we had a pretty good crowd tonight.
That's the motion.
I'll second it.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp,
Yes.
Siebert Bowles.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, here we go, huh, Ted?
Mayor, I'm going to ask Dave to present the resolution, if he would, please.
Okay.
Good evening. This agenda item is for the resolution receiving feasibility report and calling hearing on improvements for the 2021 street improvements. These projects include 4 full depth reclamation projects on 4 separate roads and 4 roadways that would receive an overlay, bituminous overlay. The feasibility report was completed and provided to the council members and the Public Works Commission last Monday. We reviewed that with all of you. The total of the projects as estimated at this point is $1,350,000. And we haven't bid the projects yet. That's an estimate. We're looking at assessing the projects based on a benefit opinion received on the roadways from a licensed appraiser. And at this point in time, we're looking at, on the reclaim projects, $4,000 assessment per equivalent lot basis. And on the overlays, a $1,000 assessment for the overlays in a similar fashion. This will generate roughly 47% of the project being assessed. The city is bonded for the project and must assess at least 20% of the project cost. So the next step here is to receive the report and consider this resolution approving the report and calling hearings on the improvements. We've broken the projects up into 5 project areas. Each reclaim project is a project area unto itself, and we believe this is consistent with state statute on holding a separate hearing for each of those. The overlay projects are all on Manhattan Point Boulevard, and we would hold one hearing on that for all of those projects.
Dave, you mean Whitefish?
Whitefish.
That's correct, Whitefish Avenue. But they're on Manhattan Point, all of the roads.
So, Mr. Reese, my comment to this is, I don't remember signing documents like this to move it forward. I'm not sure if we have done that or not. But I really would like to see an overlay option on some of these other projects, realizing that there are some bad areas that need attention to it, that will have to be fixed. But I don't know how much the council is interested in that. I guess you've all been to quite a few of the Public Works meetings. But in round numbers, overlay projects are 50% of the cost of a new construction. So if signing this off means we can't look for that when we put it out to bids? Is that what it means?
We're following the council's direction based on our recommendation of what to do with these roads. And our recommendation is to reclaim the roads that are indicated here, because it's our opinion that if you overlay them, you'll probably be back to reclaim them again in 15 years or so, because they're not suitable for an overlay. It won't last.
So I guess just an argument from my standpoint to the council is that we're spending a ton of money in the last few years. And I don't like to kick things down the road, but if we could do something at half or 40% of the cost, you know, we could do it now, and 15 years from now, hopefully they're not gonna have a new city hall or new something, and they'll be able to afford without, you know, jumping on the taxpayers that much.
But to answer your question, I mean, yes, you do need to, he can't bid the project and get bids if we don't have clarity on, is it a reclamation or is it a overlay?
Can you ask for it either way? Can you ask for it both ways? You got the road laid out. I mean, can't you ask
It
the
would
guy-
cost more, but that'd be a Dave question, how much more?
You can do alternate bids to certain roadways and ask for a separate price for a difference in tonnage for an overlay versus a reclaim. You can do that. You'll see a difference in price, and the council could consider the option of going with option A or option B.
So what is it gonna
But-
cost us to do that?
Like I said, that's an engineering question, but you would need to have that authorized now so he can set it up with that dual logic before we go forward.
Well, I would really like to see that. I don't know how the rest of you feel about it, but
Have you ever done it before?
Absolutely. We've done alternate bids.
How much
But-
higher?
It's not a lot of cost in engineering cost to do that when you prepare the plans. But I think the important point that the council needs to know is that, you know, realize that the long-term cost over a span of 30 years, which is probably what a full-depth reclamation will get you for the cost, versus doing an overlay that will maybe get you out 15 years.
Okay, but I'm just gonna-
It's cheaper in the long run to go with what we've recommended.
But if an overlay costs 40% of a full reclaimed road, you could do that road twice and still only pay 80% of the reclaimed road today. So I don't understand that logic. The logic to me means that we're gonna save money by doing an overlay, even if we have to do it again in 15 years.
But this is, say, David, my concern is that we've been following the engineering recommendations and the roads are getting done. And now we're opting to not follow the engineer's direction, and I don't like that. That's like cutting corners. It's kind of like the guy that puts carpet in your house, and he decides that, oh, I'm gonna just put the new carpet over the old pad. Or the block layer that says, we're gonna skip the footings on this one and just do it on the sand. I mean, you aren't gonna get two overlays on a road. And it's my understanding and checking with some of the state guys, is if you do overlays over roads that don't have good foundations, you're gonna spend a whole lot more money filling holes and crack sealing. So I have trouble charging money, assessing people for jobs that we're kind of cutting corners on. That's the part I don't like us doing.
Thanks for your opinion, Dave. You know, and I don't disagree with that in a perfect world, but I think we could significantly save a lot of money and get 10 or 15 good years use. I don't think it would cost us any money in the long run. And right now, it would relieve a little bit of the burden that the city has taken on with all the stuff we're doing. So I don't disagree with your logic, but I also, on the other hand, don't disagree that it would save us money in the short term. And I don't think it's gonna cost us more in the long term. It's gonna be a project that'll have to be dug up, and alls I'm asking for is an alternate. Alls I'm asking for is to take a look at it. So,
Will that delay your process going forward, getting bids and stuff? Because I realize we're on a time constraint now.
Right, well, the first thing that needs to happen is we need to hold these hearings to keep the timeline moving. and we need to tell the residents what type of improvement that we're proposing to do. So at this point, I'm hearing it may be a full-depth reclaim and reconstruction, or it might be an overlay. We don't know until the.
Dave, can I talk one more time? Can I talk one more time and then I'll be quiet? I don't understand why in December we approved the budget to do what's on this sheet of paper. All of us decided to go ahead, this is what we want to do. And now when we get up close to it, we want to change it. And the question, the answer to the question, will this delay the project? Anytime you stop something like this, yes, it will get delayed. And we could miss the window where we're going to get a good bid. So I don't agree with what it is. I think in the long term, we're just kicking the can down the road. And in 15 years or less, we're going to have to do a full reclamation. And we're going to be paying more money then to do the roads. We might not be here, but some other council members will.
I think we ought to do it as we've planned. That's my view. Right now, money is relatively cheap, and I think we aren't going to see cheap money like this in 15 years.
Dave, to comment on your comment, I have mentioned throughout this whole process that I'd like to see the overlay as the option. So I'm not waiting till the 11th hour and bringing this up. So
yeah, but I just said we all approved it though. This was in the plan.
I didn't approve it. I've always said that I want to see an option for overlaying. So I'm not saying that the majority didn't approve it, but I didn't.
No, I'm just saying you approved the budget that had this in it. That's all I said.
Well, sure, but we could use budget. I mean, you know, whatever. I did approve that. I agree. But
right. So it's in. We're covering it in the cost. So you know, it isn't.
I would like to see it as an option. John thinks we should go ahead and do it, and so do you. We got two other council members here. Let's get their opinion and move it forward. Does somebody want to just make a motion?
So would you want to overlay all of them, or are you picking and choosing?
I would like to
project
see the
areas?
option on all of them, Marcia. That's what
Oh,
I'd
on
like
all
to
of
see.
them.
Just put them out. It's tonnage. It's a different number.
Well, the ones we already said overlays for, why would we change them?
We don't have to.
Okay,
Those won't. So it'll just be the ones that are reconstruction. And it's a little bit of math. It's tonnage, right?
Yeah, it's.
And you got the project
From-
documents there? They
It's
got
not a
photos.
problem from the plan standpoint. It's not what we would recommend to the city council to get the value for the price you're going to pay.
I understand.
Because you're going to come back and have to rebuild these
We're
roads.
sacrificing 30 years for 15 years at
Anyway.
40% of the cost.
Right.
That still mathematically makes sense to me.
Could I ask one question in this
Yep.
discussion? So if you go ahead and you change the plan to what the mayor is suggesting, what does that do to our appraisal of benefit?
That's going to affect it.
That would need to change, correct?
That's right.
And so you would have a delay in the project because now your plan changed, you'd have to have another option for it.
We'd have to calculate that.
Okay.
We're going to get less money.
That's right.
We're bonding no matter what we do, and that bond has to get going as well.
Right.
That's correct. One thing at the end of this, once you decide what to do, that'll be the trigger for me to try to get favorable bonding. Now remember, we have to issue bonded debt, special assessment debt for the road portion. And we also have an equipment portion of what we're looking at to pay for the fire truck, as we talked about in the budget. So that would, once we get this done and we're in agreement on it, then we can start sizing the bond issue and try to do a combined issue to get favorable financing.
I don't see what the holdup is going to be. We still have to put it out to bids to know what we're spending. You
But
approximated.
the hearings, we have to tell people, here's what you're going to get charged. And if you tell them you might get charged $4,000, but you might get charged $1,000, I guarantee if they're on my street, I'm going to say $1,000, and I'm going to try to hold your feet to that fire. You come back and tell me $4,000, I'm going to contest it. And I don't want.
Well, maybe it should be 2 and 4, whatever, but.
Well, right now it's 1 and 4, so let's not change too much here.
Yeah, I just wish we wouldn't throw gravel in the gears here and mess this all up. We've talked about doing this and missing this in the past. and I'm not an engineer by education, and I trust the engineering opinion. That's what we hire them for. And I know you have a difference of opinion, David, but I go with the engineer's opinion. So to make things go ahead here, I want to do it the right way. I want to present the right fix to the residents. So I make a motion that we just approve this and get going as it's written in the packet.
I second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Go ahead, Sharon.
Nevin?
No.
Do we get discussion as far as the hearing dates? Do we need to do them 3 nights in a row?
I think we have to do this.
Let's just do
That
that.
we're doing the projects first. All we're doing is the projects.
No, the resolution has the hearing. Do you want to
gotcha.
spend 3 nights in a row here?
No.
I still think we should have a vote to clarify which way we're going methodology-wise, and you can have a second vote on the schedule. Yeah.
Okay.
Nevin?
No.
Andrews?
Yes.
Schrupp?
Yes?
Siebert Vols?
We're voting on the project now.
I'm moving forward with, correct. Herzog?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
Thank you.
And that motion was just on methodology. I still think you can argue again and talk more about schedule if you want to. That's like you could bifurcate.
I just thought he had made the motion to adopt this resolution, so then the hearing dates were adopted.
Well, but it still, I mean, it was more about we're not going to go to the either or option. You can still modify that and bring a motion. I'm not saying you should, but you could.
As far as the scheduling of the hearings?
The timing,
Who cares?
but you don't have to. That's up to you guys.
Well, I'm looking at the timing down here, and that's February 2nd for 2, February 3rd for 2, and February 4th for the last one.
That's my discussion. I'd like to get it down to at least 2 nights.
Oh, you want to shorten it to 2 nights?
Yeah, that would be nice.
I'm okay with whatever Dave can pull together. I don't know.
You're not gonna be here, are you?
No, I'll just zoom in.
The Whitefish one is a large one, isn't it?
That's a large one, so I'd have that on a separate night. We've probably got,
You're going to have
over
a long night
100
just with that
people
one.
to notice on that one.
And we might have to kick some people out from overcapacity. Just on the Whitefish one.
They'll all be Zoomed, though.
Yeah.
I think we need to get going with it. I mean, the problem with the dates is that we're trying to get all this done so we can get the bids out. And you got to give the people time to let us know what they think. Can you put it, Dave, Reese, can we put any more than 2 on a night? I mean, is there any way you could put more than that?
Start one earlier? Start them earlier, I should say.
You can do 4 of them in one night if you want, but it's going to be a long night. It's at least an hour, I'd reserve.
He needs to know that tonight, though, if we're going to have time to get going.
Yeah. But if you put project 1 and project 2 and project 5 on the same night, no.
Guys, I think, I'm sorry, Marcia, I think we should leave it like it is. I don't think we should combine them in COVID times here. Unless is this all Zoom? Is that what I heard?
Not all Zoom, no, but they would allow Zoom. Zoom would be available.
Right. So I think we just go with the days that Dave has here. I don't think you want to pile too many on at one time.
Is that a motion?
Just keep the resolution the way it is and do it.
Yes, I can make it a motion to go with the dates that he has recommended.
I think we're fine. The motion's good as is, the way Marcia's saying, so.
Okay.
So the motion is to approve the resolution as is.
Yes.
That was the only reason I wanted discussion, because I didn't like the dates.
The time of day, I just put as after
And you're, Dave, you're serving cold showers with it?
We have a motion, was there a second?
I second it.
Herzog.
Yes.
Nevin.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Schrupp.
Could I ask I didn't hear the motion.
To approve the resolution receiving feasibility report and calling hearing on improvements.
Yes, thank you.
Ann Ziebert Bowles.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Good evening again. Last meeting, I brought forward a truck that had broke on us. And we had a estimate of $17,000 to repair the truck that night. The motion was made and it was seconded and I never got a chance to even come forward. But I had taken the truck to another shop to get a second opinion on that truck. The other thing I did is I got an appraisal of the truck because I wanted to know the value of the truck and some harder numbers, because last time it was looked at was in the summer when a snowplow isn't as valuable as it is today. While we were doing that, we discovered it was just the torque converter. So the first shop that was looking at the flywheel and everything else for $17,000, it came in, the second estimate was at $6,500.
Ooh.
Since that time, because we had to take the truck apart to do the repair, and then the other thing, the appraisal came up in the truck for $30,000 to $35,000.
Is that fixed or not?
Yes, the truck is fixed today.
You went ahead and fixed it?
I went ahead and fixed it at the $6,500, so it is done. But we do have a value, rather than that $15,000 or $20,000 I thought before, we have a value of $30,000 to $35,000 on that truck today. The other thing the dealer told me is the truck, the way it was with the broken torque converter, they wouldn't have given us anything for it. It would have been scrapped for somebody, you'd have maybe got $3,000 to $5,000 for it. So today, that's what I've done. I kind of took direction, we just repaired that water tanker here. You guys authorized me a month ago to do it, that 1982 stub-nosed Kenworth. And you authorized me to spend up to $10,000 on that. Well, I ended up spending $2,500 to repair that. So I kind of took that direction at the same time to get it done. I apologize to the council for moving forward with a repair that I didn't have authorized from you, but I make these decisions quite often for repairing pumps and equipment up to the $10,000 that I was told that I could spend by past councils. So, but it is fixed. The next debate is what do we do with it? Do we keep it as a reserve truck, or do we sell it?
I would say sell it.
Can I just interject? I'd like to keep it as a backup. And the only reason I'm saying that is, we've got in 2013 that we have issues with pollution control equipment. When they came up with the new pollution control equipment, they went into, and every manufacturer engine came up with different things on these diesels. And we've had twice where the International's been down in its career, and it costs $2,500 to $3,000 to repair. And what it is part of the regeneration system. During that time, we don't have a second truck, we're down to one truck. The Mack, the way it sits today, is a good truck. It would be a good backup truck for us. It would take some of the everyday plowing away from, and we'd add less hours to the new truck and to the 2013 and making them last that much longer. That's what I'd like to do. It's up to the council to give me direction on what they would like to do.
Did we also just recently buy a new plow for this truck too?
Yeah, we replaced in about 5 years ago, there was a new plow put on it because the old one was so worn in the pins and the hinges on it that it actually walked when it went down the road. It was almost scary to plow with. So we got a new plow on it. It's had the hydraulic pump rebuilt on it. There's the rear end has been redone on it. We've had a broken spring that's been redone on it. There's been, repairs, just upkeep on, like we do on any truck that, as we plow with them.
But you think you would have use for this truck if you could keep it?
Yeah, the other thing is we had the oils have been tested as far as wear and tear on the motor. That's one of the things we try to do on an annual basis on it, whether it's our loader or whatever, Bobcat. And the oils are showing no breakdown of the motor, so.
My personal opinion is we declared it as surplus and didn't want to stick any money into it. I hope we get the 6,000 out that you put in there for repairs. I still want to declare it as surplus property.
Okay.
That's about me.
I think Ted did a good job fixing both trucks for $10,000, which was the budget. So, and again, I don't know his needs, but he knows his needs, and I think he should keep it.
Okay,
You're
well,
just
there's a-
looking
there's
at
a
maintenance
motion on the
issues.
floor to do it as surplus.
But
So
you need a
let's-
second before we do
Let's
discussion.
take care of one before you throw another one in. I'll second your motion, Marcia.
Okay, now we can have more discussion.
David, it'd just be more maintenance. Next month, it might be 10,000 to fix the next thing that goes wrong on it. We purchased a new snowplow truck because this one wasn't any good anymore, and it was just going to be a maintenance issue. And there's no point in keeping it for maintenance issues, the insurance. You're replacing the snowplow truck. So I don't know why we wouldn't just get rid of it.
If we get the 30 grand out of it, we could put it toward another vehicle or piece of equipment, because I believe that's what we're doing with those funds, aren't we, Mike? And I think that might be a
So there's a motion and a
good
second on the
concept.
floor. And I guess we're discussing, huh?
Yeah, yes. So, if you want to go with the vote, go ahead. You want the vote? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Vote.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin,
A yes vote means to get rid of it.
to
Surplus,
declare
get
as
rid of it.
surplus.
Yes.
Andrews,
No.
Schrupp,
No.
Siebert Bowles.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-2.
Okay, TJ?
I have two quick items. You want me to get up to the podium, or can I do them
Yeah,
from here?
come on up.
Okay. All right, I have two items. First one is a recommendation from the Parks and Recreation Library Commission. They recommend to City Council that cash in lieu of land be collected for the Huss lot split. It would be $1,500 in park dedication.
TJ, don't we typically get a packet with these with a lot description and location and information?
I mean, we have in the past with planning and zoning, but
That changed.
When?
John?
City staff can now do certain splits. This mask. is
About a year
killing me
ago, you
tonight.
guys made a change to chapter 43 of the ordinance, or excuse me, 44, that talks about lot splits. And every lot split used to come before the council, and you decided that you'd never not approved one, so you made it more of an administrative, and
Usually
so,
we have a survey or something to look at, so we can see what part of town the lot's in or something.
we can do that if that's what you like. What we're doing now is when we get the request in, and we know that someone's gonna come in with an application, we let TJ know, so he can bring it to his board to ask, and they know where it's at. He knows where it's gonna be at and where the split is gonna occur. Looks in his plan, if the plan shows that we're looking for a park there, or we're looking for putting a trail there in the future, then that would be where you'd ask for the land.
So in the last year, we've never had that in a packet for a lot split, a survey of any kind?
You had, if you were doing the approval, yes. To approve the split. So
Administratively, you guys did that already, you're just
We haven't accepted the application yet for the Huss one. We have for the next one that's on the list, to do the lot split. But we can't finalize the application, and I can't approve it until you guys decide, are you gonna take the $1,500 cash, or are you gonna take some land from the person?
Okay, I guess I'll leave it alone, but I'd be curious where it is, and I guess I could come and find out.
Yeah, it certainly come in. The Miller one that you're looking at next is out on County Road 36. The Huss one, Cheryl sent that. I haven't seen that one yet. We haven't got a complete application. We're just trying to proceed forward so that it can happen quicker on their end to bring in all the paperwork that's needed, pay the fee, and then I sign everything and they bring it down to the county to record it.
Okay.
If you want to have that full package, we certainly can do that for you. That's your choice.
I'd like to know where it is, but that's curiosity more than anything. You know?
Sure.
Just
We can include that in the future, at least a location. We may not have the survey yet.
Right.
But
But a little
we'd have more
description of what it
information.
is, or-
Correct. We can do that.
Okay, so go ahead and make a motion to accept cash in lieu of land.
I move it on the Huss lot split, we accept the $1,500 cash.
I second.
Okay.
Schrupp,
Wait,
Yes.
Do you have a comment?
Oh.
Do you want to say something? Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Schrupp,
Yes.
Siebert Bowles,
Yes,
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin.
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
motion carried.
Item number 2, Miller subdivision, another $1,500 for park dedication. The staff recommendation from the commission was to accept cash in lieu of land for the subdivision.
Okay, motion?
I move we accept the $1,500 from Miller.
I'll s-
And
I'll second that motion.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Schrupp,
Yes.
Siebert Bowles,
Yes,
Herzog.
yes,
And just to confirm, when I bring this forward to you for approval, you want some sort of attachment pertaining to this subdivision or lot split?
so we can look and see where it is in the city.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a full package,
Okay.
TJ, but I'd just like to see what it is.
I just have a question for you, TJ.
Mhm.
I know you were a little cautious at the last meeting about the trail snow removal. How is that going, and
Good. Are you talking about the trail, the paved trail?
Yeah.
On,
I guess my motion was to clear it until the community center was open, but I think maybe with the whole COVID vaccine being, late spring, early summer, maybe we should just go through the season.
to be quite honest with you, it hasn't added a whole lot. We've gotten all of our other priorities done before we worked on that. Typically, if we come here and clear City Hall, we can hit it on our way back, one pass, but it hasn't really put a big burden on us. We haven't had a lot of snow, with
Yeah.
that being said, but we are keeping track every time we sweep, snow blow, or plow it. We are putting on a chart, so when we want to go back and reassess that, I have all that documented. But if you're saying continue what we're doing throughout the whole rest of the winter season,
Well, do I need to move on that I want to extend it to the rest of the season? I want to make a motion to extend the trail clearing snow removal on Daggett Pine Trail for the rest of the season.
I'll second.
Okay, a little conversation on that, TJ, is you don't have heavy equipment you're doing that with. So keep an eye on the guys. If the snow gets too hard, don't tear that stuff up. Try
Right.
to plow that snow.
we have a big snow blower on the back of our tractor,
Lawn tractor.
big tractor,
Oh, okay.
3720.
Okay, well, I've seen the little wheeler out there with a bucket on.
That's only for the lighter stuff, yeah. We'll bring out the bigger stuff if we get heavier snow.
But
And
still,
I
I agree with them, be cautious that
I
you
think-
don't get into something
Yeah,
really.
the Trail Clear is great for the city, and people use it, and that's the only trail they can park and go. Don't tear the equipment part at the expense of. When it gets too bad, you just gotta quit. So,
Okay.
that's my thought. Go ahead, Shar. Anybody else has got anything else?
Writing. Nevin.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Schrupp.
Yes.
Siebert Vols.
Yes.
Herzog.
Yes.
Motion carries.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, TJ.
Thank you.
Okay, next is public forum. No action will be taken on any of the issues raised. If appropriate, the issue will be placed on the agenda for a future council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. You have 3 minutes.
Tom Swenson, West Shore Drive. Earlier in the meeting, when you were setting the commission dates and times, just a suggestion, and I'm thinking of the Public Works meetings. Lately, there's been, most of the council has been in attendance. And this is, when I was here, this is what we did on the annual posting, was that there may be a quorum of the council in attendance, so that if you guys want to come to a Public Works meeting, more than 2 of you can come, and it's already covered in the notice that gets hung in the
That notice, that very same notice is still hanging out there. The problem is you can't have all 5 of them talk at the meeting, or else it has to be published as a special council meeting. Only 2 of them can talk.
I guess I would ask the city attorney that, because in the past, as long as the council isn't making decisions, all of them have been, when I was here, all of them were able to talk if they were at a meeting. It wasn't restricted to 2. If 4 of them come to a Public Works meeting, and I'll get into that next, but, you know, we've had discussions on, you know, how to deal with the assessment policy. As long as it's posted that all of them are there and no official council action will be taken, that always covered the city in the past.
Well, I would say that to meet the open meeting law, you need to notice if they're there and they might talk some, you're not sure what's going to happen. We can't control what people do at a committee meeting.
What are you pointing at me for?
Huh?
What are you pointing at me for when you say that?
I was looking at all of you. No, you just perceived you. Anyway, I think the safe answer is you call that a council meeting. You know, as long as you have to do whatever the notice requirements for this meeting would be, it'd be the same for that commission meeting.
So can we do that, Char, just to be safe?
You can do that.
And that's what I want to get away from. You know, if you're just stating that there may be a quorum of the council in attendance.
Oh, I'm not saying you got to call it a council meeting. I'm just saying whatever requirements, meaning if we publish it in the paper and all that, I think you can still call it a Public Works meeting.
Yep.
But if the law says you need to, if you change the date or things like that, I mean, you need to follow the same rules as you would for a council. You can still call it a Public Works meeting.
I'm just saying that, you know, when we posted on the outside bulletin board that Public Works will meet the first Monday at 4 o'clock every month, add to that saying there may be a quorum of the council in attendance, no council action will be taken. Just to cover them. Okay, so then why are council members being told only 2 of them can talk?
According to the League of Minnesota Cities, I have the verbiage, I showed it to Marcia. I mean, it says only 2 council members can talk, or you need to call it a special council meeting.
Activate your, thank you. My question is, do you publish the Public Works meetings in the newspaper?
No, we don't publish any
So the only one that
notices.
gets published in the newspaper is planning and zoning?
Only if there is a public hearing to be held, yes.
So
I think
planning
that-
and zoning, when there's a
So I
public.
think that's saying that the standing notice, it's better than nothing, but I don't think that would suffice if challenged. I mean, if we know we're going to have 3 council members talking, I think that's a concern.
And if not, we need to have 2 of them be quiet.
Okay.
I mean, you know, we'll have to, because we've done that before too, but I was kind of under the impression that they were posted meetings and we could all talk.
I'll just speak as someone who's been to some of these. It is frustrating to be there and not be allowed to talk, and I've had that happen several times. I can't comment on the hassle factor, but I'm just saying, to go and say, well, you can't talk today, is a little bit frustrating.
Yeah. It is, but I think. Can you call it a joint council, public works meeting in the notice?
Yeah, but then you got to put it in the
the-
paper and follow that decorum is what I'm saying. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's just, you got to follow the process is all I'm saying. So I'm not saying you can't talk. I'm just saying you got to call it you got to publish in the newspaper, and if the date changes, you can't just have the standing at City Hall notice and call it good.
Okay.
Does that am I making sense? I
So
mean,
we're gonna have to be
I'm
careful.
not saying you like that answer,
Or
but I
we're gonna
think
have to
that's the
post
answer.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was trying to make it so you guys could come to meetings and talk, but
Right.
whatever. And then whether I agree with Dave or not on what was talked about on the road projects, the Public Works Commission debated those assessments for the last 3 months. And unless there's something in your packet, because it doesn't say anything on the agenda that's available to the public, but there's no recommendation from the Public Works Commission to approve. There was a motion made by the commission to recommend to the council approval of the plans and specs and to move forward with this. Now, it gets to the council, and all of a sudden, there's a fresh debate on everything, and the recommendation from the Public Works Commission is never even mentioned. My last thing is, if I understand the appointments right, Dave Nevin is the liaison to Public Works now, and Dave Schrupp is not. Dave Schrupp used to be the one that took the minutes for the Public Works Commission meeting. So I don't know who's going to take the minutes if he's not on there. One suggestion I would have is you direct the city clerk to attend that meeting and take the minutes of the Public Works meeting.
I actually intended to do that.
Okay.
Sorry, Sheriff. but-
I just think, it's important to have the minutes, and then in the minutes, just like I just stated, where a motion was made, but it never got brought to the council. And I think, I used to take the minutes for Public Works when I was the administrator, and I do the minutes right after the meeting, so any motions that were made, there was a memo from the Public Works Commission to the council on what the motion was. And we've kind of
Getting lost?
lost some of that, and I just think if you had a staff person taking the minutes, and Shar would be aware that, okay, there was a motion made, and even if the minutes don't come to the council because they're not approved, that motion should come to the council so they know there was a motion made to do something.
Yeah, okay. Well, do we have to readdress that? But I intended to ask you to take the minutes because I knew there was going to be a problem. So does that have to be part of a motion? So I'm going to make a motion that the city clerk take the minutes at the Public Works meeting.
Can't take action on anything that was brought up here during this session.
Can't take action on what?
Open forum. We cannot take action on open forum discussion.
Oh, okay. All right, well, we'll wait till new business then.
No, I think you have to wait till next meeting.
Is there any other public forum? Anybody want to say anything? Okay, city attorney, Brad, you got anything?
No.
New business?
I've got some.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question about the street vacate. We did the ordinance, but we never will the staff send out notice to property owners within 350 feet? And do we have to do the public hearing again on that street vacate? Because we just adopted the ordinance.
My memory was that the past vacation was tabled until we could pass the ordinance first. John, procedurally, what were you planning on doing? We haven't talked about that.
We couldn't we couldn't do the vacate until the ordinance was passed. Now-
Agreed, but it has to get in front of us again, and I'm not sure how he
Correct.
plans on.
You certainly, excuse me, could say right now that you want to hear it again, but we told both of the commissions that we were going to bring it back to them after the ordinance had changed, so they could get the full scope of what they were requesting and give the property owner opportunity to come before the Parks Commission and the Public Works Commission to plead their case to them, to get another recommendation to bring back to you guys next month.
Okay, I just thought we had told those people that we would consider it.
And I spoke with both of them, and I said, and I told them that they would be back in contact with them for both of the commission meetings, so they had their opportunity to come there, present their case, and then bring it back here in February.
So for the public hearing, for the council meeting, you'll send out notices to property owners within 300.
Do we need to send a
Well,
another?
that was kind of your question in my mind. In my opinion, legally, as a council, you can do more than this, but legally, we noticed everyone legally before, and anyone that cared about the outcome was either at the hearing or provided written commentary. So when an issue gets tabled like that, they're on notice already that it's going to come back. We don't need to re-notice, but it wasn't.
The property owners did get notice for the last public hearing.
Yes,
Within
correct.
350 feet.
Sure. Not, the 350 is not the right standard, but according to the state statute, well, who has to get notice? The DNR and the adjacent landowners? Yeah, they all got noticed. And there was feedback, because I'm not sure who all talked to John, but I had probably 3 or 4 neighbors call me about the vacation, what was happening. But that was pre the first hearing we had.
And we had people.
I just want to make sure the process is
Yes.
followed after we adopted.
Well, if there's been enough of a lag in the ordinance change, I didn't say it very well yet, you could direct staff to just renotice it so that there's more clarity, because the rules have changed a bit, or if you think anyone that cared has already provided comments, we didn't have any negative feedback to my knowledge. We don't necessarily need to renotice it, that would be a council question. He's already going to bring it back to commissions, but that's different than noticing the neighbors again. We could if you want us to.
Did you have any letters of opposition from any neighbors?
That's what I'm saying. I had 3 or 4 people call me. They were just questions about what was going on and why. It wasn't necessarily negative feedback. I don't know what John received.
We had several phone calls. No one wanted to submit anything in writing, and they were all just curious about what they were asking for.
So,
Okay, then I have,
Well, just before sorry to interrupt you there, but just to be clear then, so we are okay then, just having them go back to the commissions and coming back to the council without any further notice to landowners? Is that okay?
if the landowners have.
They got the first notice.
previously,
They did.
Then that's fine.
You're fine with that? Okay.
The next thing that I'd like to talk about is, I would like to have all budget adjustments and transfers need council approval. And I'd like to make a motion on that all budget adjustments and transfers need council approval before they're done.
that is a motion.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Yes.
Aaron seconds it. Any other discussion?
Do you have any examples of what that means?
That budget, if something's budgeted for a particular item, line item budget, that it can't be just moved and used somewhere else without the council approving it.
So the budget we adopted in December cannot be changed without council approval?
Correct.
Okay, I understand.
Any other discussion? Okay, Shar?
Siebert Bowles.
Yes.
Herzog.
Yes.
Nevin.
Yes.
Andrews.
No.
Schrupp.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
Then I have a couple questions, sorry. But wondered about the payment from Oregon for, or wherever the payment was coming from for the fire department to go out there. I know the mutual aid was, I'm assuming that the mutual aid expenses of $23,000 was the cost for going out there? Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. Would you like to address that, Chip?
We haven't got the paperwork back from the state. Nothing's been sent back to us.
Okay.
The federal thing.
Let's see, and then I had, I would like to make a motion that the balance sheet is included in the council agenda. I'm referring to like your audited financial statement, I think it's page 16, the balance sheet. If we could have a balance sheet along with the revenue and expense reports, that would be wonderful. That's, I guess I'll make a motion to include balance sheet in council agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on that? Go ahead, Char.
Schrupp,
I have a question. Is this on every council meeting?
Yes, it would come with your revenue and your expenditure report, and your balance sheet would show you your fund balances and your cash balance, and the assigned balance. It's something we should have in front of us.
Yes.
We're not going to adjust the assigned balances every month. There's just not time between the end of the month.
You can provide that balance sheet though, right?
Yes, we can. It will be unadjusted, though.
Schrupp,
Yes.
Siebert Bols,
Yes.
Herzog,
Yes.
Nevin,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Then I just have one other thing. Storage sheds out there by the
Public Works?
treatment plant,
Yeah.
Public Works. Do we have any, does the council have any idea what's in those sheds? I know Ted took, I went on a tour and looked in those sheds, and there's a lot of stuff in there, like turnout gear and stuff that we would never use. Is there a chance that we could take a look at what we should get rid of and clean out those sheds? And also if we can find equipment in there or something that, or things that we could sell, maybe auction or whatever. But I think it would be good if the city council members would go with Ted and look in those building ones and
So we
see
can't
what
do
is-
that as a group because that would be a meeting then,
Well,
right?
two of you
So
at
Two
a
at a
time.
time.
Ben, would you accommodate that little tour?
If you would so would like that, I could do that.
Okay. Okay, so it's up to us. Run them down.
And I'm almost done. This is it.
You said that last time.
Policies, can we have the policies on the website? All the city policies, personnel, all those policies, but can we put those on the website with the ordinances? So that if you wanted to look up a policy, you could just look at the website. You can go on there and look at the ordinances, but the policies aren't in there. So I was just wondering if that could be something we could put on the website.
Public information? Yeah, I don't know how much work it is to do that, but as you can, do what you can, kind of. Yeah. Is that it? All right, does anybody else have anything else? I've got one other thing. I
Over
would
here.
like- Oh, huh? Oh,
I just have an announcement.
okay, I'd like to schedule Mike, the administrator's review. So, when should we do that? Should get it done, it's the first of the year. Anybody have a date? What are we doing this week?
Maybe we should do it.
I'm not available this week.
Okay, what were you gonna say, Marcia?
Maybe that January 19th when we're going to show up here for the engineers, we could do it before that.
That's at 10 in the morning. And that's a 2-hour, 4 half-hour Zooms. Yeah, we could do that or after. Do it after at noon on the 19th? That's a week from tomorrow?
I would say after, definitely, not before.
Right. Okay, that sounds good to me.
What time?
Well, noon or to follow the, what are we doing? The engineer interviews.
Engineering interviews.
So it should be close to noon.
Is that open or closed? Is that Mike's choice?
That's my choice.
She's gonna have to know how to post it if it's a closed or an open.
I'm sure Mike will tell her. What did you have, Eric?
My glasses back on. Hey. As you might recall, or you might have heard, last Wednesday, CRMC paramedic Toby Rowan died in service. He was at a heart attack. Not really sure where they were at. I think it was Deerwood or something to that effect. But he was an active paramedic with CRMC and Onamia Ambulance. Point of the whole thing is he was a member of Log Church. So on Thursday, I think at 1 o'clock, they have visitation. 2 o'clock is a service, but staging, we'll probably have a whole lot of ambulance and fire trucks and probably some squad cars at the Log Church. So although they can have 150 or 200 in the church, socially distanced, and then they can open up the basement, the gymnasium to have, more people in there. So we're going to probably expect a lot of traffic along 66. Myself and Chief Lowe Miller and Ted and Pastor Holman and people who are helping plan the funeral are getting together tomorrow to figure out logistics on where we're going to park things. I mean, my understanding, the last time a paramedic died like this, there was 100 ambulance that showed up. That was a Metro. I don't think there will be that many, but just so you're aware that that's going to be going on Thursday this week.
This week, Thursday, did you say noon?
Noon is probably when everyone will start staging.
Yeah.
At the church. So initially what my thoughts are is to the two services that he belonged to or that he worked for, Onamia and CRMC, will probably park out on 66. And we're going to go from there. We're going to try to figure out, I want to put them out front and show the people where he worked and that type of thing, and not in the back parking lot. So we're working through all that right now. Okay?
Expect delays.
Yep.
All right, expect delays. Any old business? Where is that motion we've all been waiting for?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.